What if Naruto was origin Quirk sage, forbidden god feared by all Momo x Midnight Chapter 1, the sage among heroes. The explosion rocked downtown Tokyo, glass raining down from skyscrapers as civilians scattered in panic. Debris clouded the air, and through the chaos, a figure shot skyward trailing blue energy, empty lady, knocked back by whatever had just detonated in the financial district. "We've got multiple pros down," crackled the police radio. "Requesting immediate backup. Unknown villain with explosion Quirk, possibly S-class threat." Kamui Woods darted between buildings, his wooden limbs extending to catch falling civilians. Death Arms had already formed a perimeter, but whatever was causing the destruction remained at the epicenter, obscured by smoke and dust. Then the air changed. The gathering clouds suddenly spiraled inward, forming a perfect vortex above the destruction. The wind picked up, but instead of scattering the debris, it began drawing it upward in a controlled column. "What the hell kind of quirk is that?" Death Arms shouted, bracing himself against the sudden pressure change. In the exact center of the chaos, space itself seemed to tear open, not a portal or wormhole like Kurogiri created, but something far more primal. Reality folded in on itself, and from this impossible breach stepped a young man with spiky blonde hair and strange facial markings. He dropped to one knee as his feet touched pavement, disoriented. His orange and black outfit was unlike any hero costume, and the headband bearing a stylized leaf symbol was foreign to everyone watching. Naruto Uzumaki blinked, looking around at the destruction with genuine confusion. The last thing he remembered was performing a complex seal to contain the Ten-Tails chakra, and now, this wasn't Konoha. This wasn't anywhere he recognized. "Hands where I can see them," came a shout through a megaphone. Naruto raised his head to see police officers in strange uniforms training weapons on him. Behind them, people in colorful outfits stood ready, some with enlarged limbs, others literally on fire or floating above the ground. "What the?" Naruto started, then switched to Japanese. "Where am I?" "You're under arrest for destruction of property and assault on pro-heroes," the officer continued. "Stay down and don't activate your quirk." "My what?" Naruto stood slowly, hands slightly raised. "Look, I don't know what's happening, but I didn't cause any of this." That's when the actual attacker made his move. A man in a metal-plated vest lunged from behind a shattered storefront, his palms igniting with miniature explosions as he charged the police line. Naruto moved without thinking. One moment he stood 30 feet away, the next he appeared between the attacker and the officers, catching the explosive hands by the wrists. "Whoa there," Naruto said, maintaining his grip despite the man's struggle. "Pretty sure attacking cops isn't cool in any world." The attacker snarled, his entire body beginning to glow. "Die with them then." Naruto sighed, almost looking bored. "Yeah, that's not happening." Just before the villain could detonate his entire body, Naruto pressed 2 fingers to the man's forehead. The glow instantly subsided as the attacker's eyes rolled back, body going limp. Naruto gently lowered him to the ground. "He'll be fine," Naruto called to the stunned officers. "Just disrupted his chakra, whatever you call it here. He'll wake up with a headache in about an hour." The police didn't lower their weapons. If anything, they looked more alarmed. "Sir, we need you to come with us immediately," the lead officer said. "Your quirk is unregistered and potentially Omega level." Naruto scratched his head. "Look, I really have no idea what you're talking about. What's a quirk? And where exactly am I?" A new voice cut through the tension, sultry but commanding. "Maybe I can help with the confusion." A woman stepped forward from behind the police line. She wore a skin-tight bodysuit that left little to imagination, with dark purple hair and a domino mask. Her smile was professional but held genuine intrigue. "I'm the pro-hero Midnight," she said, approaching cautiously. "And you're in Tokyo, Japan. Though I suspect that doesn't quite answer your question, does it?" Naruto's eyes widened. "Japan. But it's different." He gestured at the gleaming buildings and the people with clearly inhuman features moving among the crowd. Where I'm from, people don't have these abilities everywhere. Midnight raised an eyebrow. And where exactly are you from? Kanahagakur. The Hidden Leaf Village. The police officers exchanged glances. One whispered into his radio. Midnight maintained her composed expression. I'm not familiar with that place. But your Japanese is perfect, if oddly accented. She took another step forward. You clearly have an extremely powerful quirk, that's what we call these abilities. Everyone here has one, though they vary greatly. Naruto looked at his hands. Ha! Where I'm from, only shinobi can manipulate chakra like this. Chakra? Midnight's eyes narrowed with interest. That's not terminology we use for quirks. Before their conversation could continue, the ground rumbled. From the crater where the original explosion had occurred, a massive figure emerged, nearly 12 feet tall with exposed metal components grafted to flesh. Found you, energy source, the creature growled, its voice mechanical and distorted. Your power signature is unique. Naruto glanced at Midnight. Friend of yours? Definitely not, she said, taking a fighting stance and reaching for her whip. That's not a registered hero or a known villain. The mechanical behemoth charged, each footfall cracking the pavement. Police scattered while Kamui Woods attempted to restrain it with wooden branches, only for them to snap against its metal plating. Everyone get back. Midnight called, unleashing her somnambulist quirk, a pink mist that flowed toward the creature. The behemoth simply opened vents in its shoulders, creating a countercurrent that dispersed her quirk. Organic attacks ineffective, it droned. Target acquired. It wasn't looking at Midnight anymore. It was staring directly at Naruto. Alright, Naruto sighed, rolling his shoulders. I'm having a weird day, so I'll apologize now if I overdo this. He closed his eyes for just a moment. When he opened them again, they had changed, horizontal pupils like a toad's, surrounded by orange pigmentation. The air around him began to waver as if heated, and the concrete beneath his feet cracked in a perfect circle. Midnight gasped, feeling a pressure she'd never experienced before, not from All Might, not from any hero or villain she'd encountered. This wasn't just raw power, it was fundamentally different energy. That's not a quirk, she whispered to herself. That's something else entirely. Naruto vanished from sight. The behemoth had just enough time to register confusion before an impact like a freight train hit it squarely in the chest. The mechanical monster flew backward, crashing through 3 buildings before coming to rest nearly half a kilometer away. Naruto reappeared where he started, still in that strange toad-like transformation. Oops. Sage mode might be overkill here. The behemoth was already charging back, moving even faster now, pieces of its outer plating shed to reveal more weaponry. Energy source detected. Must absorb. Must integrate. Naruto didn't move this time. Instead, he held out his hand, and a swirling blue orb formed above his palm, spinning chakra compressed into a perfect sphere. Rasengan, he said simply. When the behemoth reached him, Naruto sidestepped its charge and pressed the orb into its side. For a split second, nothing happened. Then the swirling energy expanded outward, grinding against metal and synthetic flesh. The rotation intensified until the behemoth was caught in its own localized tornado, its components ripping apart and scattering. What remained crashed to the ground, a core processor of some kind, still blinking with fading lights. The gathered heroes and police stared in shock. Naruto let Sage Mode fade, his eyes returning to normal as he approached the mechanical core. This thing isn't from your world either, he said, crouching to examine it. It was tracking my chakra signature. Someone sent it specifically for me. Midnight approached cautiously, her professional demeanor momentarily replaced by genuine awe. What, who are you? She asked. Naruto stood and gave her a smile that somehow blended sheepishness and confidence. Naruto Uzumaki. And I think I'm really, really far from home. The UA High School emergency meeting room had never been so tense. Principal Nizu sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable as always. Around him gathered the top pro heroes who served as faculty, All Might in his diminished form, Eraserhead, Present Mic, and Midnight. On the wall screens, government officials and representatives from the Hero Public Safety Commission watched intently. "The footage speaks for itself," said a stern-faced woman from the commission. "This individual, Naruto Uzumaki, as he calls himself, demonstrated power that rivals or possibly exceeds All Might at his peak. And our Quirk analysts can't categorize it." "It's not that we can't categorize it," corrected a scientist on another screen. "It's that it doesn't register as a quirk at all on our instruments. Whatever energy he's manipulating, it's fundamentally different from what powers our quirks." Nizu nodded thoughtfully. "And where is Mr. Uzumaki now?" "Secure holding at the HPSC headquarters," replied the commission representative. "Though, secure is relative. Our analysts believe he's cooperating voluntarily." "I spoke with him briefly at the scene," Midnight interjected. "He seemed genuinely confused, not hostile. He neutralized both the initial attacker and that mechanical creature without causing fatalities." Eraserhead grunted. "That doesn't mean he's not dangerous. Someone with that level of power walking around unchecked is a disaster waiting to happen." "Ordinarily I'd agree," said All Might, his sunken eyes serious. "But there's something else we need to consider. That mechanical being specifically targeted him. It wasn't indigenous to our world either, according to preliminary analysis. Which means we potentially have multiple dimensional incursions," Nizu concluded. "One apparently benign, one hostile." "Interesting." The government official cleared his throat. "We've assembled a special task force under Captain Saito. His quirk nullification abilities might provide some safeguard if this Uzumaki person turns hostile." "And what's the long-term plan?" Midnight asked. "Keep him locked up indefinitely." "That depends on what we learn," the commission representative replied. "We're sending in a specialist to evaluate him further." Nizu's eyes gleamed with interest. "One of our students might actually be ideal for this task." Everyone turned to the principal in surprise. "You can't be suggesting we involve students with a potential Omega-level threat," Eraserhead said flatly. "Not just any student," Nizu replied. "Momo Yaoyorozu. Her analytical mind, combined with her quirk's unique requirements for understanding materials at a molecular level, makes her exceptionally qualified to help us understand the fundamental differences between our energy systems." "She's still just a student," Eraserhead argued. "A student who scored higher on material physics than most university professors," Nizu countered. "And more importantly, she doesn't represent authority. Mr. Uzumaki might be more forthcoming with someone closer to his apparent age who approaches from intellectual curiosity rather than security concerns." The commission members conferred off-screen before the representative nodded reluctantly. "We'll consider it, under strict supervision, of course. I'll volunteer to oversee any interactions," Midnight offered. "He seemed responsive to me at the scene." "I bet he did," Present Mic muttered with a smirk, earning him a sharp elbow from Eraserhead. "Then it's settled," Nizu concluded. "Midnight will approach young Yaoyorozu about assisting with our dimensional visitor. In the meantime, we need to understand more about these mechanical entities and whether more will follow." As the meeting adjourned, Midnight lingered, looking at the freeze-frame image of Naruto on screen, his eyes transformed, power visibly radiating around him. "Something on your mind?" All Might asked, noticing her hesitation. "When he transformed, I felt something I've never experienced before," she admitted. "Not just power, but, it was like the natural world itself responded to him. Like he was tapping into something primal that existed before quirks." All Might's expression grew somber. "That aligns with something I felt as well. Whatever he is. I'm not sure our understanding of quirks is equipped to explain it." Naruto sat cross-legged on the floor of his holding cell, a reinforced room with what they called quirk dampening technology built into the walls. He'd politely not mentioned that the dampeners had absolutely no effect on his chakra. He closed his eyes, entering a meditative state to assess his situation. This world was strange, chakra existed here, but it manifested differently. Everyone seemed to have a single specialized ability rather than a comprehensive chakra system. More concerning was how he'd arrived here. The seal he'd been performing was meant to contain the Ten-Tail's power, not transport him across dimensions. Something had interfered with the process. And now something else, that mechanical creature, had followed him. It had specifically targeted his chakra signature, calling it unique even in this world of powers. The door slid open, interrupting his meditation. A man in a tailored black suit entered, flanked by 2 guards in specialized equipment. The man radiated authority but also caution. "Mr. Uzumaki," he said formally. "I'm Captain Saito with the Special Powers Containment Division. I'd like to ask you some questions." Naruto unfolded from his meditation position and stood, offering a friendly smile despite the circumstances. "Sure thing. Though I don't know how helpful I'll be. I'm still trying to figure this place out myself." Saito maintained his professional demeanor. "Our analysts have been studying the footage of your abilities. They don't match any known quirk category." "That's because it's not a quirk," Naruto said simply. "It's chakra, the combination of physical and spiritual energy that flows through all living things. Where I'm from, shinobi train to harness it." "And where exactly is that?" "We have no record of any hidden leaf village in our databases." Naruto laughed. "Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I'm pretty sure I'm from an entirely different world or dimension or whatever you call it. Your cities, technology, even the way powers work, it's all different." Sato's expression remained neutral. "Let's talk about those powers. You demonstrated super strength, speed, energy projection, and some kind of transformation. Are there limits to these abilities?" "Of course," Naruto said, though his casual tone suggested those limits might still be beyond most people here. "Chakra can be depleted with use, though mine, well, I've got a lot to work with." "And that transformation?" Your eyes changed. "Sage mode," Naruto explained. "It lets me draw in natural energy from the environment and blend it with my own chakra. Gives a pretty significant boost to everything." Saito made a note on his tablet. "That mechanical entity specifically targeted you. Any idea why?" Naruto's expression grew more serious. "No, and that bothers me. It wasn't from your world, the technology was different, more biological. And it detected something specific about my chakra signature that interested it." Saito studied Naruto for a moment. "Mr. Uzumaki, I'll be direct. You represent an unknown variable with power that potentially exceeds our strongest heroes. That makes a lot of people very nervous." "Yeah, I get that," Naruto sighed. "Look, I don't want trouble. I just want to figure out how I got here and if there's a way back. And maybe deal with whatever sent that robot thing after me. We may be able to help each other then," Saito said. "We're bringing in some specialists who might better understand the energy you manipulate. In exchange for your cooperation, we'll commit resources to investigating your arrival and this mechanical threat." Naruto brightened. "That sounds great. Much better than sitting in this room, though." He glanced at the supposedly quirk-dampening walls. "These aren't actually doing anything to contain me, just so you know." Sato's composed expression faltered slightly. "You could leave any time." "Well, yeah," Naruto shrugged. "But that would be rude after you guys have been pretty decent, all things considered." Before Saito could respond, the door opened again. Midnight entered, accompanied by a young woman with a sleek ponytail and intelligent eyes. She wore what appeared to be a school uniform with subtle modifications. "Captain Saito," Midnight nodded professionally. "I've brought Momo Yaoyorozu as requested by the commission." She's our top student in material sciences and quirk theory. Momo bowed formally. It's an honor to assist with this investigation. Naruto stood a little straighter, suddenly aware he'd been lounging casually in his jumpsuit. There was something about the young woman's dignified presence that commanded respect. Yaoyorozu is here to help us understand the fundamental differences between quirks and your chakra, Midnight explained. She has a unique perspective that might prove valuable. Momo approached with confident steps, analyzing Naruto with scientific curiosity rather than fear. Your display of energy manipulation was fascinating, Uzumaki-san. Especially the spherical compression technique. The Rasengan? Naruto blinked in surprise. You could follow that? Not entirely, she admitted, but the rotational dynamics were visible even at that speed. My quirk requires precise understanding of atomic structures, so I'm trained to observe energy patterns. Your quirk? Naruto asked, genuinely curious. In response, a soft glow emanated from Momo's arm. She held out her palm, and before everyone's eyes, a small metal device materialized directly from her skin. Creation, she explained, handing him the device, a perfectly formed miniature scientific instrument. I can create any non-living material from my body cells, provided I understand its molecular composition. Naruto examined the device with genuine amazement. That's incredible. It's like a hyper-specialized version of the transformation technique, but making real objects. Momo's eyes lit up at his technical comparison. Transformation technique? You have categorized abilities as well? Oh boy, Midnight muttered with an amused smile. We've unleashed the science geek in her. Captain Saito cleared his throat. Perhaps we should continue this conversation in a more appropriate setting. We've prepared a research room where Yaoyorozu can conduct her analysis. Lead the way, Naruto said cheerfully. As they walked, he fell into step beside Momo. So, you're a student. Learning to be one of those heroes I saw. Yes, at UA High School, the top hero training academy, she replied. Though today I'm here as a researcher more than a hero in training. Where I'm from, we start training as ninjas from childhood, Naruto said. By your age, I was already. He trailed off, remembering the war, the pain attack, everything that happened with Sasuke. Momo noticed his sudden shift in mood. Already what? Let's just say I'd seen a lot, Naruto replied with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. So this quirk stuff, everyone has just one power. Yes, generally manifesting around age 4, Momo explained, accepting his change of subject. Quirks are believed to be the next stage of human evolution, though their origin remains somewhat mysterious in the scientific community. They entered a large laboratory space filled with scanning equipment and monitoring devices. Technicians bustled around, preparing various stations. We'd like to run some basic tests first, Captain Saito explained. Non-invasive scans to observe your energy patterns when using abilities. Sure, Naruto agreed easily. Just tell me what you need me to do. For the next hour, Naruto demonstrated basic chakra manipulation, walking up walls, creating shadow clones, and performing simple jutsu. The scientists watched in fascination as their instruments struggled to quantify what they were seeing. It's not just the energy that's different, Momo observed, studying a readout. It's how it interacts with matter and physical laws. When you created those duplicates, shadow clones, Naruto corrected. Shadow clones, she acknowledged, the mass distribution defied conservation principles. They're not illusions, they have physical substance, but the total mass exceeds what should be possible. Yeah, chakra kinda bends rules like that, Naruto explained, dismissing his clones with a hand sign. It's part physical energy, part spiritual energy, and when you add natural energy to the mix with Sage Mode, you can really do some crazy stuff. Midnight, who had been observing quietly, stepped forward. Could you demonstrate this Sage Mode in a controlled manner? It seemed to significantly amplify your abilities during the incident. Naruto hesitated. It's pretty intense. Are you sure? Our equipment is designed to handle All Might's power levels, Captain Saito assured him. We should be able to take the readings safely. Alright, Naruto nodded. Everyone might want to step back a bit. He sat cross-legged on the floor, closing his eyes in concentration. The room fell silent as everyone watched. For several moments, nothing visible happened. Then the instruments began going haywire. What's happening? Captain Saito demanded. He's drawing energy from somewhere, one technician reported in confusion. But it's not generating from within him like a quirk. It's flowing into him from everywhere. Momo watched, transfixed, as Naruto's appearance subtly changed, orange pigmentation forming around his closed eyes. When he opened them, they had transformed into those toad-like pupils. The air around him seemed to waver, not from heat but from something more fundamental. Dust particles suspended in the air began orbiting around him in perfect concentric circles. The concrete floor beneath him cracked slightly. This is Sage Mode, Naruto said, his voice deeper, more resonant. I'm balancing my own chakra with natural energy from the environment. Momo took an unconscious step toward him, fascinated. The energy patterns. They're connecting to ambient energy fields we didn't even know existed. Be careful, Midnight cautioned, placing a hand on Momo's shoulder. But Momo was too intrigued to heed the warning. She approached Naruto, studying the phenomenon with analytical precision. As she drew closer, something unexpected happened. The tiny scientific device she had created earlier began to glow faintly. What's happening to your creation? Naruto asked, noticing the glow. Momo examined it with surprise. I don't know. My creations don't normally react to external energy fields. On an impulse, she created another small object, a simple metal sphere. The moment it fully materialized, it too began resonating with the same subtle glow. Fascinating, she breathed. Your natural energy is somehow harmonizing with the molecular bonds in my creations. It's as if your quirk and my chakra are speaking the same language. Naruto suggested. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the scientific detachment in Momo's expression gave way to genuine wonder. Exactly. Captain Saito cleared his throat, breaking the moment. I think we have enough preliminary data. Uzumaki-san, can you power down? Naruto nodded, releasing Sage Mode. The orange pigmentation faded, his eyes returned to normal, and the atmospheric distortion subsided. The glow in Momo's creations diminished but didn't completely disappear. The residual effect is still present, she noted. Captain, I'd like permission to conduct more focused experiments on the interaction between his chakra and my creation quirk. This could provide insights into the fundamental nature of both energy systems. Saito consulted briefly with his team before nodding reluctantly. Approved, but with continued supervision and safety protocols. Midnight will remain as hero oversight. As the technicians began processing data, Midnight pulled Naruto aside. That was impressive, but I couldn't help noticing you were holding back significantly. Naruto gave her a surprised look, then smiled. You've got good instincts. Yeah, Sage Mode can go a lot further, but I didn't want to blow out all your equipment or make everyone too nervous. That level of power control indicates significant training, Midnight observed. You've been fighting for a long time, haven't you? Something in her perceptive question made Naruto drop his carefree facade momentarily. Since I was a kid. My world wasn't always kind. Midnight studied him with professional interest that couldn't quite mask a more personal curiosity. Well, for what it's worth, I think you're handling this situation with remarkable patience. Many people with your abilities might have reacted differently to being contained and studied. Naruto shrugged. Getting angry doesn't solve problems. Plus, I need to figure out why I'm here and what that robot thing wanted with me. A pragmatic approach, Midnight nodded approvingly. Though I suspect there's more to your cooperation than just practicality. Before Naruto could respond, the facility's alarms suddenly blared. Red emergency lights flashed as security personnel rushed to stations. "What's happening?" Midnight demanded of a passing guard. "Breach in Sector 7, he reported. Multiple mechanical entities similar to the one from earlier. They're converging on this location." Naruto's expression hardened. "They're tracking me. They must have gotten a lock on my chakra signature when I went into Sage mode." Captain Saito was already mobilizing response teams. "We need to evacuate you to a secure location." "If they're after you, no," Naruto interrupted firmly. "Evacuate your people. I'll handle this." "This is a government facility," Saito objected. "We have protocols." A massive explosion cut him off as the eastern wall of the laboratory suddenly disintegrated. Through the smoke and debris, mechanical figures advanced, similar to the one from downtown but smaller, more agile. "Target located," they intoned in unison. "Primary objective, capture energy source." Naruto moved to the front of the group, his posture shifting from casual to combat ready in an instant. "Get everyone back. I've got this." "I'm staying," Midnight declared, uncoiling her whip. "This is my jurisdiction." "Me too," Momo added, surprising everyone. At their questioning looks, she created a metal staff from her arm, twirling it with practiced skill. "I'm a hero student. We train for this." Naruto glanced between them, a small smile forming despite the situation. "All right then. But follow my lead, these things aren't after you." The mechanical creatures charged forward. Naruto met them head-on, moving with blinding speed. His fighting style was unlike anything Momo had observed before, not just powerful but tactically precise, turning the creatures' momentum against them. Midnight flanked from the left, her somnambulist mist dispersing toward the attackers. This time, it had some effect. The more organic components of the creatures showed susceptibility to her quirk, slowing their reactions. Momo analyzed the situation rapidly, creating flash grenades that overloaded the creatures' optical sensors. "Their joints," she called out. "The connection points have minimal armor." Naruto nodded in acknowledgement, adjusting his attacks to target the vulnerable areas she'd identified. His fist punched clean through one creature's knee joint, sending it crashing down. "Not bad teamwork for people who just met," he called out, sounding almost cheerful despite the battle. More creatures poured in through the breach, larger models pushing to the front. Naruto's expression grew serious as he assessed their increasing numbers. "Time to stop holding back," he muttered. Forming a cross with his fingers, he called out, "Multi-shadow clone jutsu." The laboratory suddenly filled with 50 perfect copies of Naruto, each solid and combat-ready. The clones engaged the mechanical forces while the original Naruto turned to Midnight and Momo. "I need to end this quickly before they damage more of your facility," he said. "Can you two create an opening to that central unit?" He pointed to a larger mechanical entity hanging back, seemingly coordinating the others. Midnight nodded sharply. "Yayorozu, sonic disruptors." Understanding immediately, Momo created several small devices from her arms and torso, the effort causing her to momentarily wince. She handed them to Midnight, who deployed them in a pattern around the periphery of the battle. The devices activated simultaneously, emitting a frequency that caused the mechanical creatures to stutter and falter. A clear path opened to the command unit. "Now!" Midnight called. Naruto flashed forward, but instead of attacking directly, he placed a strange three-pronged kunai at the command unit's feet. The unit began to back away, but Naruto formed an unusual hand seal. "Flying Raijin Jutsu." He vanished in a yellow flash, reappearing instantly beside the command unit. In his hand, a Rasengan formed, but unlike the previous one, this sphere contained what looked like miniature shuriken blades of wind spinning within it. "Raisen Shuriken," Naruto announced, driving the technique into the command unit. The effect was catastrophic for the mechanical entity. The spinning blades of wind chakra expanded outward, disintegrating its components at a molecular level. As the command unit collapsed, the remaining mechanical forces suddenly froze, their coordinated attack falling into disarray. Naruto's shadow clones made quick work of the remaining units, systematically disabling them. When the last one fell, the clones disappeared in puffs of smoke, leaving only the original Naruto standing amid the mechanical debris. He turned to find Midnight and Momo staring at him with expressions that mixed awe and professional assessment. "What?" he asked, suddenly self-conscious. "Did I overdo it?" "That technique," Momo said, stepping forward to examine the molecular damage caused by the Raisin Shuriken. "It operated on a cellular level. The dissection pattern is unlike anything I've seen a Quirk produce. Wind chakra can be pretty sharp," Naruto explained with characteristic understatement. "When you add shape transformation and spin dynamics, it can cut through almost anything." Captain Saito emerged from the security station, surveying the destruction with a grim expression. "Well, I think we can officially rule out containing you if you decided not to cooperate." Naruto rubbed the back of his head awkwardly. "Sorry about the mess. But hey, we captured some of these things intact. Maybe they can tell us where they're coming from and why they want my chakra so badly." Midnight approached one of the disabled units, crouching to examine its construction. "These aren't from our world. The technology is beyond even Island's capabilities. Which means we have at least 2 extra-dimensional factors to contend with," Saito concluded. "Uzumaki-san and whoever is sending these harvesters after him." Momo had been examining the command unit's remains, her analytical mind working through possibilities. The coordination suggests a hive mind structure rather than individual AI. They're extensions of something larger. "Great," Naruto sighed. "So somewhere out there is a bigger, badder version pulling the strings." Captain Saito conferred briefly with his security team before turning back to Naruto. "This facility is compromised. We need to relocate you immediately." "To where?" Naruto asked. "If these things can track my chakra signature, they'll find me anywhere I go. And I'm not going to keep hiding while they tear up your world looking for me." "He has a point," Midnight agreed. "Conventional containment won't work. We need a different approach." Momo stepped forward, her expression resolute. "If I may, Captain. UA High School has the most advanced security systems in Japan, designed specifically to handle powerful quirks. Principal Nizu has already expressed interest in studying this situation." "You want to bring him to a school?" Saito asked incredulously. "A hero training facility," Momo corrected. "With multiple pro-heroes on staff and defensive capabilities that rival government installations. More importantly, it has research facilities that might help us understand why these entities are targeting him." Naruto looked between them curiously. "This UA place, it's where you train?" Momo nodded. "It's where I'm studying to become a pro-hero. The most prestigious hero academy in Japan." Naruto considered this. "A school, huh? That actually sounds nice. Better than a lab or a cell, anyway." Captain Saito didn't appear convinced, but before he could object, Midnight intervened. "I'll take full responsibility for his supervision at UA," she stated. "As a faculty member, I can monitor him directly while providing liaison with the commission." After a tense moment of consideration, Saito reluctantly nodded. "I'll have to clear it with my superiors, but given the circumstances, it may be our best option. These attacks will continue, and a hero training facility is better equipped to handle combat than a research installation." Relief washed over Naruto's face. "So I'm going to school. That's a first." Midnight raised an eyebrow. "You didn't attend formal education?" "Not really," Naruto admitted. "Ninja training was pretty hands-on where I'm from." As the security team began processing the mechanical remnants, Naruto helped clear debris, his shadow clones making quick work of the heavier pieces. Momo observed with continued fascination. "Those clones," she said, approaching him. They're not just copies of your appearance, they duplicate your consciousness as well, don't they? You're operating them independently. Naruto looked impressed by her deduction. Yeah, exactly. When they disperse, I get all their experiences and memories too. Makes them great for reconnaissance or covering ground quickly. The applications for hero work would be revolutionary, Momo mused. The ability to be in multiple places at once while maintaining coordination. It has its drawbacks, Naruto said, more seriously than his usual tone. Splitting your chakra, or I guess your energy, that many ways takes a toll. And feeling everything they feel, it's not always pleasant in a fight. Momo studied him with new understanding. You feel their injuries? Naruto nodded. Every hit. It's like dying a little bit, over and over. You get used to it, but... He shook his head, forcing his usual smile back. Anyway, it's a pretty useful technique despite that. Midnight, who had overheard this exchange, regarded Naruto with deepened interest. The casual way he mentioned enduring pain that would incapacitate most people spoke volumes about his experiences. The transport to UA will be ready in 30 minutes, she informed them. Yaoyorozu, you should probably contact Principal Nizu and inform him of the situation. As Momo stepped away to make the call, Midnight moved closer to Naruto. Those mechanical creatures, you held back against them too, didn't you? Naruto met her perceptive gaze. A little. I didn't want to bring the whole building down. But they were tougher than the first one, adapting already. You're concerned. Yeah, he admitted. Not about beating them, but about why they want my chakra so badly. Whatever's controlling them, it's hunting me specifically. And if it gets what it wants. He left the thought unfinished, but Midnight understood the implication. We'll figure it out. For now, let's focus on getting you settled at UA where we can better protect both you and the public. Naruto's smile returned, genuinely grateful. Thanks for vouching for me. Not everyone would stick their neck out for some weird guy who dropped out of the sky. Professional hero judgment, Midnight replied with a wink. Though I admit, you're certainly the most interesting case I've encountered in my career. As they prepared for transport, neither noticed Momo watching their interaction with thoughtful eyes, her brilliant mind already forming connections and possibilities about their unusual visitor and the mysteries surrounding him. UA High School stood impressive against the afternoon sky, its modern architecture blending security with academic design. As the armored transport approached the main gate, Naruto pressed his face against the window like an excited child. Wow, this place is huge. And it's all for training heroes. The main campus, yes, Momo explained from the seat beside him. There are training grounds, research facilities, dormitories, and specialized battle centers for different environmental conditions. Midnight, seated across from them, smiled at Naruto's enthusiasm. It's the premier hero academy in Japan. Only the most promising students with the strongest quirks are accepted. The transport passed through multiple security checkpoints before stopping at the administration building. As they disembarked, a small welcoming committee awaited them, a curious assortment of individuals who could only be pro-heroes based on their distinctive appearances. At the front stood a small, well-dressed creature. Naruto couldn't quite determine if it was a mouse, a dog, or something else entirely. Welcome to UA High School, Uzumaki-san, the animal-like being said with perfect articulation. I am Principal Nizu. I run this establishment. Naruto blinked in surprise but recovered quickly. Thanks for having me. You've got a really cool school here. Indeed we do, Nizu replied with an enigmatic smile. And we're most intrigued by your unique situation. These are some of our faculty members, Eraserhead, Present Mike, and of course you've already met Midnight. A disheveled man with a capture weapon scarf and a loud blonde with directional speakers on his neck nodded in acknowledgement. Welcome to UA, new friend. Present Mike announced at unnecessary volume. Don't blow out his eardrums, Mike, Eraserhead muttered, his tired eyes assessing Naruto carefully. So you're the dimensional traveler causing all the commotion. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Yeah, sorry about that. Didn't exactly plan to drop in like this. We've prepared accommodations in our secure development studio, Nizu explained. It's designed to withstand high-level quirk usage while allowing for comfortable living arrangements. Young Yaoyorozu will continue her research collaboration with you there. As they walked through the campus, students stopped to stare at the procession. Word had clearly spread about the mysterious visitor with powers beyond normal quirks. Everyone staring, Naruto whispered to Momo. Your big news, she replied. Information about your downtown appearance spread across hero networks immediately. Most of them have seen the footage. Great, Naruto sighed. Famous for all the wrong reasons again. Before Momo could inquire about that curious statement, a booming laugh echoed across the courtyard. A massive figure rounded the corner, an impossibly muscular man with a distinctive smile and blonde hair styled in two peaks. There he is, the giant man announced. Our interdimensional guest. All Might, Midnight explained to Naruto. The number one hero. Naruto's eyes widened. Whoa. He's intense. All Might bounded over in a single leap, landing before them with enough force to crack the pavement. Welcome, young man. I've heard remarkable things about your abilities. The sheer presence of the hero was overwhelming, but Naruto found himself grinning in response. There was something genuinely warm behind the theatrical persona. Thanks. You're pretty impressive yourself, Naruto replied. I'm guessing you're the strongest hero around here. Ha ha ha. All Might laughed. Indeed I am. The symbol of peace and justice. Though I must say, your display downtown has many wondering where you might rank if you were a registered hero. Eraserhead sighed audibly. Let's not encourage power comparisons, All Might. We still know very little about our guest's capabilities or intentions. Always the cautious one, Aizawa. All Might clapped Eraserhead on the back hard enough to make him stumble forward. But you're right, of course. There will be time to learn more about young Uzumaki's powers. For now, let's get him settled. The development studio turned out to be an impressive facility, part living quarters, part research lab, with reinforced walls and state-of-the-art equipment. Large windows offered views of the training grounds, and the space was surprisingly comfortable despite its secure nature. This will serve as your temporary residence, Nizu explained. Midnight will be your primary liaison, and young Yaoyorozu will continue her research here when her class schedule permits. This is way better than that holding cell, Naruto said, exploring the space with interest. Thanks for setting this up. Our support department is very curious about your energy manipulation, Nizu continued. With your permission, we'd like to study how it might interface with our technology. The mechanical entities targeting you suggest there may be applications we haven't considered. Sure thing, Naruto agreed easily. I'm happy to help however I can. Though fair warning, chakra technology in my world is pretty different from what you have here. As the faculty members discussed security arrangements, Momo approached Naruto by the window. The training ground below is where my class practices combat exercises. Class 1A. So you're like, a hero student? Learning to save people and fight villains? Momo nodded. It's a rigorous program. We study everything from quirk law to rescue operations to combat tactics. Naruto watched as some students in the distance practiced quirk applications. In my world, we trained as ninjas, primarily for village security and missions. But it was different. The line between hero and, well, not hero, was blurrier. You mean between heroes and villains? Naruto frowned slightly. We didn't really use those terms. There were shinobi with different allegiances, different philosophies. Some of the most dangerous people I ever fought believed they were doing the right thing. Momo considered this. That's not so different here. Many villains believe their cause is just. What makes someone a hero is choosing to operate within society's framework for the greater good. Naruto said thoughtfully. I never thought about it that way. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert tone. Screens throughout the facility activated, displaying security footage from the main gate. Another mechanical entity, larger than any previous ones, was attempting to breach the perimeter. That was fast, Naruto muttered. They're really persistent. The faculty members immediately moved into action. All Might bounded toward the exit, declaring, I shall handle this threat. All Might, wait, Midnight called after him. These entities specifically target Uzumaki's energy signature. Normal attacks may not be effective. But the number one hero had already departed in a rush of wind. The screen showed him arriving at the gate in seconds, confronting the massive mechanical creature with his trademark smile. Fear not, for I am here, his voice boomed through the security feed. The mechanical entity paused its assault on the barrier, sensors focusing on All Might. Secondary target acquired. Significant energy detection. Will harvest before primary objective. That doesn't sound good, Naruto said, suddenly serious. It's analyzing his quirk as an energy source too. On screen, All Might launched his attack, a devastating punch that would normally demolish most opponents. The mechanical entity absorbed the impact, its outer shell deforming to channel the kinetic energy through internal systems. Parts of it glowed as it processed the power. Energy absorption confirmed. Compatible with secondary objectives. Proceeding with harvest. All Might looked momentarily surprised as the creature counterattacked, moving with enhanced speed and strength, mimicking aspects of his own fighting style. It's adapting to him, Momo observed with concern. Learning from his quirk. Naruto was already moving toward the door. I need to help him. Eraserhead stepped in his path. This facility is designed to contain you for your protection. We can't risk exposing you to these entities. Your number one hero is in trouble, Naruto argued. That thing is absorbing quirk energy, which means it's going to get stronger with every hit. And it's here because of me. Midnight assessed the situation on screen, where All Might was now grappling with mechanical tendrils that had erupted from the creature's core. Despite his immense strength, he was struggling to break free as the tendrils pulsed with energy drainage. He's right, she decided. All Might doesn't understand what he's fighting. Uzumaki has experience with these entities. Eraserhead hesitated, then reluctantly stood aside. Fine. But Midnight and I will accompany you. Yaoyorozu, stay here with Principal Nizu. Actually, Naruto interjected, I could use her help too. Her quirk created devices that disrupted these things earlier. Momo straightened with determination. I've been analyzing their construction. I believe I can create countermeasures more effectively now. Nizu nodded his approval. Very well. A supervised field test of our collaborative approach seems appropriate given the circumstances. But proceed with caution, all of you. They rushed to the battle site, arriving to find All Might still fighting valiantly but visibly straining. The mechanical entity had grown larger, incorporating materials from the surrounding environment into its structure while continuing to drain energy from the hero. All Might. Midnight called out. Disengage. It's feeding on your quirk. The number one hero attempted to break away, but the tendrils tightened. Easier said than done, I'm afraid. This villain has quite the grip. Naruto stepped forward, assessing the situation. Eraserhead, can your quirk affect those energy channels? The underground hero nodded, activating his erasure quirk. The glowing tendrils temporarily dimmed, allowing All Might to tear free from several of them. Momo, now. Naruto called. Understanding immediately, Momo created several specialized devices from her body, small discs with intricate circuitry. Electromagnetic pulse generators, she explained, tossing them to Naruto. Modified based on what we learned earlier. Naruto caught them, then created shadow clones that strategically placed the devices around the mechanical entity. As they activated simultaneously, the creature's system stuttered, its movements becoming erratic. All Might, pull back. Midnight ordered, releasing her somnambulist mist toward the organic components of the entity. The number one hero finally broke free completely, jumping clear of the creature's reach. Despite his usual bravado, he was breathing heavily, his costume torn in places where the tendrils had attached. Quite the persistent foe, he declared, though with less volume than usual. What manner of villain is this? Not a villain, Naruto explained quickly. Some kind of mechanical hunter from another dimension. It's after my chakra, but apparently your quirk interested it too. The entity was already recovering from the electromagnetic disruption, its systems recalibrating. Primary target located. Proceeding with primary objective. It launched itself toward Naruto with frightening speed. Instead of dodging, Naruto met it head-on, his hands forming rapid seals. Earth-style, mud wall. The ground before him erupted upward, forming a massive barrier of hardened earth that the entity crashed into. The impact shattered the wall but also momentarily disoriented the creature. Wind-style, vacuum blade. Naruto followed with a slicing wind attack that cut through several of the entity's appendages. Yet even as they fell, the severed parts began reconstructing themselves from available materials. It regenerates, Eraserhead observed grimly. Yeah, but not indefinitely, Naruto replied. It needs energy to maintain that ability. If we can drain it faster than it can absorb. Momo was already creating a new device, larger and more complex than the previous ones. A sympathetic resonance generator, she explained. If I can match the frequency of its energy storage. The entity launched another attack, this time splitting into multiple smaller units that surrounded them. Naruto created a defensive perimeter of shadow clones while Midnight and Eraserhead protected Momo as she completed her device. All Might rejoined the battle, more cautious now, using strategic strikes rather than raw power. These things are after you specifically, young Uzumaki. Yeah, something about my chakra signature interests them, Naruto confirmed, deflecting mechanical tendrils with kunai. Though apparently they think your quirk is tasty too. The number one hero laughed despite the situation. Well, I've been told I have quite the powerful aura. Ready. Momo called, activating her creation. The device hummed to life, emitting pulses of energy that matched the fluctuating patterns of the mechanical entity. The effect was immediate, the creature's components began vibrating discordantly, its coordinated attack faltering. The energy it had absorbed from All Might leaked out in visible waves. Now's our chance, Naruto said, entering Sage mode. The transformation came faster this time, orange pigmentation forming around his eyes as he drew in natural energy. He formed a Rasengan in each hand, but unlike previous versions, these contained swirling elements of different chakra natures, one blazing with fire, one crackling with lightning. Element release, dual Rasengan barrage. Naruto slammed the techniques into the main body of the entity from opposite sides. The contradicting elemental energies created a catastrophic reaction inside the creature's core, setting off chain reactions throughout its systems. The mechanical entity convulsed, its components failing as Momo's resonance device forced it to expel the energy it had harvested. In a final desperate attempt, it tried to launch its remaining parts at Naruto, but Eraserhead's capture weapon and Midnight's whip intercepted them. With a sound like metal fatigue pushed beyond its limits, the entity collapsed, its systems shutting down permanently. The smaller units it had deployed similarly deactivated, falling to the ground as inert components. Silence fell over the battlefield. All Might approached the remains cautiously. Is it defeated? Yeah, Naruto confirmed, releasing Sage mode. But there'll be more. Whatever's sending these things isn't giving up. Midnight surveyed the damage to the gate area. At least we contained it before it reached the main campus. The students remained safe. Momo was already examining the fallen components, her analytical mind working through possibilities. These units are becoming more sophisticated with each encounter. This one had adaptive learning algorithms that the previous models lacked. They're evolving, Eraserhead concluded grimly. Learning from each failure. Naruto nodded. And they're getting stronger. This one nearly drained All Might, and he's your strongest hero. The number one hero maintained his smile, though more subdued than usual. Indeed, it was quite the formidable opponent. Your assistance was most appreciated, young Uzumaki. As security teams moved in to collect the mechanical remains, Naruto turned to Momo. Your resonance device was brilliant. How did you know what frequency to use? I analyzed the energy patterns from our earlier encounter, she explained. There's a distinctive harmonic in how they store harvested energy. But I couldn't have succeeded without Midnight and Eraserhead providing cover. The underground hero grunted in acknowledgement, while Midnight offered a more gracious nod. Teamwork makes the dream work, as they say in hero studies. All Might clapped Naruto on the shoulder with enough force to stagger most people. You fight with both power and strategy, young man. Most impressive. Though I couldn't help noticing you were still holding back considerably. The others looked at Naruto with renewed interest. Well, yeah, Naruto admitted. We're at a school. I didn't want to, level the place. All Might's perpetual smile widened. Ha ha ha. A considerate attitude. I like you, Uzumaki. As they made their way back to the development studio, Midnight fell into step beside Naruto. Those elemental techniques, they're different from what you showed us earlier. Naruto nodded. Sage mode lets me access more advanced chakra manipulation. Combining elemental affinities creates stronger jutsu. And how many elements can you manipulate? All of them, technically, Naruto replied casually. Fire, wind, earth, lightning, water are the basics. Then there are combinations and specialized forms. Midnight's eyes widened slightly. Most quirks are limited to a single manifestation. Even the most versatile typically operate within tight parameters. Chakra's different, Naruto explained. It's not about having a specific power, it's about how you shape the energy. Anyone in my world could theoretically learn any technique with enough training, though most people have natural affinities that make certain elements easier. Ahead of them, Momo was deep in conversation with Principal Nizu, who had joined them at the battle site. Their discussion appeared intensely technical, with Momo gesturing animatedly about her resonance device. She's really smart, huh? Naruto observed. One of our most brilliant students, Midnight confirmed. Her creation quirk requires perfect understanding of molecular structures, which has cultivated exceptional analytical skills. Most students her age couldn't have developed a countering device so quickly. In my world, she'd probably be a seal master, Naruto said thoughtfully. They're the ones who understand the fundamental language of chakra itself, how to bind, redirect, and transform energy at its core. Midnight studied him with renewed interest. And were you a seal master in your world? Naruto laughed. No way. I was terrible at the technical stuff. I'm more of a creative improviser. Though I did learn some advanced seals eventually. His expression grew momentarily distant. Had to, considering what I carried. Before Midnight could inquire further about this cryptic statement, they reached the development studio. The facility had been enhanced with additional security measures in their absence, and several support department students were installing monitoring equipment. We've taken the liberty of upgrading your accommodations, Nizu explained. The attack at our gate confirms that these entities can track you over considerable distances. We're implementing countermeasures based on young Yaoyorozu's resonance technology. Naruto looked impressed. You work fast around here. Hero schools must be adaptable, Nizu replied with his enigmatic smile. Now, I believe you all deserve some rest after that encounter. We'll reconvene tomorrow to discuss our findings from the mechanical components. As the faculty members dispersed to attend to their duties, Momo lingered, her expression torn between exhaustion and scientific curiosity. You should get some rest too, Naruto told her. Creating all those devices must have taken a lot out of you. My stamina has improved significantly since entering UA, she replied, though she couldn't quite stifle a yawn. But you're right. We can continue our analysis tomorrow. Thanks for your help today, Naruto said sincerely. Those devices you created probably saved All Might from getting drained dry. Momo's eyes widened slightly at the compliment. Thank you. Though it was your combat abilities that ultimately defeated the entity. Teamwork, Naruto grinned. That's something my world and yours definitely have in common. The strongest shinobi were never the ones fighting alone. As Momo departed, Midnight remained behind, ostensibly to review security protocols but clearly with additional questions. Something on your mind? Naruto asked, dropping onto the couch with casual grace. Midnight took the seat opposite him, her professional demeanor relaxing slightly. Several things, actually. You mentioned carrying something earlier, something that required you to learn advanced seals. Naruto's expression became uncharacteristically guarded. Yeah, that's a complicated story. We have time, Midnight prompted gently. Understanding your background might help us better comprehend why these entities are targeting you specifically. Naruto was quiet for a moment, weighing his response. Finally, he sighed. In my world, there are beings of immense power, tailed beasts. Living chakra, essentially. I was the Jinchuriki, the human container, for the nine tails, the strongest of them. Midnight's eyes widened. You contained another being inside yourself? Since I was a baby, Naruto confirmed. It's why my chakra reserves are so large, why I heal so quickly, and probably why these mechanical things want me. The nine tails chakra is different. More primal. That must have been a tremendous burden for a child, Midnight observed, her perception cutting straight to the heart of the matter. Naruto's usual cheerfulness faltered. Yeah. People feared what I contained. I grew up pretty isolated until I started proving myself as a ninja. He laughed, but it lacked his usual warmth. Guess some things don't change. New world, still feared for what's inside me. Midnight leaned forward, her expression surprisingly gentle for someone with such a provocative hero persona. There's a difference. Here, you're not feared because of prejudice, it's simply the unknown that makes people cautious. You've already begun proving yourself through your actions. I hope so, Naruto replied. I don't want to be seen as just a potential threat or a research subject. Is that why you agreed to come to UA? For a chance to be seen differently? Naruto considered this. Partly. But also because places like this, where people train to protect others, they feel familiar. Like home in a way. Midnight nodded in understanding. Well, for what it's worth, your assistance today made a significant impression. Even Eraserhead seemed less suspicious, which is practically a miracle. Naruto's smile returned. That guy reminds me of a friend from back home. Serious, always expecting the worst, secretly caring more than he lets on. An accurate assessment of Aizawa, Midnight laughed. Perhaps you should get some rest as well. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, I'm sure. As she rose to leave, Naruto called after her. Hey, Midnight. Thanks for advocating for me. It means a lot. She paused at the door, offering a smile that was more genuine than her usual professional expression. Something tells me it's a decision I won't regret. Good night, Naruto. Left alone in the studio, Naruto moved to the large window overlooking the campus. Night had fallen, but training lights still illuminated portions of the grounds where dedicated students continued practicing. Different world, he murmured to himself, but some things never change. People fighting to protect what matters to them. He placed his hand against the glass, feeling the faint vibration of energy through the building, quirks being used, lives being lived, a world continuing despite the strangeness that had entered it. For the first time since his arrival, Naruto felt something like hope. Not just for finding his way home, but for finding his place here, however temporary it might be. Chapter 2, Natural Energy and Artificial Creations. Naruto balanced perfectly on top of a thin wooden pole, eyes closed, completely motionless despite the morning breeze. 50 feet above Yue's training ground, he looked like a strange orange statue against the blue sky. 3 stories below in the observation room, Momo watched with analytical fascination, taking notes on a specialized tablet. He's been completely still for 47 minutes, she murmured to herself. No muscle fatigue, perfectly controlled breathing. But what's most remarkable? She tapped the screen to enhance readings from the sensors placed around the training area. The ambient energy patterns are actually bending toward him. Midnight entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Momo. Any insights on our interdimensional friend's meditation? It's not meditation, at least not in the traditional sense, Momo replied without taking her eyes off the monitors. He's gathering what he calls natural energy from the environment. The sensors show atmospheric disturbances we've never recorded with any known quirk. Midnight studied the readings over Momo's shoulder. These patterns, they're almost like the earth itself is breathing through him. Exactly. Momo's eyes lit up. It's as if he's becoming a focal point for energy that was always present but imperceptible to our instruments. I've been trying to theorize how this relates to quirks, especially my own creation ability. Midnight smiled at the young student's enthusiasm. And that's why you've been here since 5 a.m. instead of attending classes. Momo had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. Principal Nizu approved my independent study proposal. This is potentially groundbreaking research on energy fundamentals. Midnight hummed skeptically. Nothing to do with our charismatic visitor, then. Before Momo could respond, the monitors showed a sudden spike in energy readings. Outside, Naruto's form had begun to glow faintly, orange pigmentation appearing around his still-closed eyes. He's entering Sage mode, Momo explained, hastily adjusting the sensors. Watch the pattern shift, it's completely different from quirk activation. Instead of energy emanating from within, external energy is being harmonized with his internal reserves. Above them, Naruto opened his now transformed eyes. Without any apparent effort, he leapt from the pole, soaring across the training ground in a trajectory that defied normal physics. He landed on an adjacent platform, creating barely a whisper of sound despite dropping from significant height. That's my cue, Momo said, gathering her equipment. We planned a practical demonstration once he completed his gathering phase. Midnight raised an eyebrow. You're participating in quirk training with him? Are you sure that's safe? It's not just safe, it's revolutionary, Momo replied with uncharacteristic excitement. Yesterday, he helped me understand how my creation quirk interfaces with external energy. I was able to create 3 times my normal output with half the stamina cost. Before Midnight could voice further concerns, Momo had already hurried out toward the training ground. Midnight sighed, taking a sip of her coffee as she watched through the observation window. Teenagers, she muttered, though with an affectionate smile. Always thinking they're invincible. Outside, Momo approached Naruto, who greeted her with a bright grin, the toad-like aspects of Sage mode giving him a strangely compelling appearance. Morning, Momo. Ready to break some quirk limitations today? Absolutely, she replied, unable to contain her enthusiasm. The preliminary tests suggest my creation quirk operates on principles similar to what you call shape transformation in chakra. Naruto hopped down from the platform, landing lightly beside her. Yeah, that makes sense. When you create things, you're visualizing their structure and converting energy into matter, right? That's basically what I do with jutsu, except you're way more precise. Momo nodded. Exactly. But my limitation has always been the amount of lipids I can convert at once. Yesterday, when you showed me how to sense the ambient energy around me. You were able to supplement your own reserves, Naruto finished. Not quite drawing in natural energy like a sage, but making your conversion process more efficient. The results were remarkable, Momo confirmed, excitement coloring her typically composed demeanor. I want to test the limits today, particularly with complex creations that normally exhaust me quickly. Naruto glanced toward the observation room, giving Midnight a casual wave. Your teacher seems worried. Midnight Sensei is just being cautious, Momo said. The faculty is still adjusting to your unconventional approach to energy manipulation. Fair enough, Naruto laughed. So what's the plan? What do you want to create today? Momo took a deep breath, determination in her eyes. I want to try creating a functional support item I've been designing, a multi-purpose adaptive armor system. Normally, something this complex would require multiple creation sessions and leave me completely drained. Ambitious, Naruto nodded approvingly. Let's start with the breathing exercise I showed you. Remember, it's not about forcing energy, it's about becoming aware of what's already flowing through everything. Inside the observation room, Midnight watched with professional interest as Naruto guided Momo through what appeared to be a specialized form of meditation. Unlike his earlier stillness, this involved specific hand positions and controlled breathing patterns. What exactly are they doing? Asked a gruff voice behind her. Midnight turned to find Aizawa entering the room, looking even more sleep-deprived than usual. Good morning to you too, Aizawa, she replied. They're experimenting with energy efficiency for Yaoyorozu's creation quirk. Apparently, Uzumaki's techniques have helped her overcome some of her stamina limitations. Eraserhead frowned, watching through the glass. I'm not comfortable with a student being the primary researcher on our interdimensional visitor. She's brilliant, but she's still a first year. She's also the only one whose quirk seems directly compatible with his energy methods, Midnight pointed out. And look at her, have you ever seen Yaoyorozu this enthusiastic about practical applications? Outside, Momo had begun glowing faintly, not with the orange pigmentation of Sage Mode, but with a subtle luminescence that seemed to enhance the normal activation pattern of her creation quirk. Her expression showed intense concentration as she held her hands in a position Naruto had shown her. Now visualize the complete structure, Naruto coached. But instead of just using your own energy, feel how it connects to the environment. Your quirk doesn't have to work in isolation. Momo closed her eyes, her body beginning to emit a brighter glow. Slowly, material began forming across her exposed arm and torso, not the usual rapid emergence of a single item, but a coordinated generation of interconnected components. That's it, Naruto encouraged. Don't rush. Let the energy flow through the pathways naturally. In the observation room, the monitoring equipment suddenly spiked, sensors registering unprecedented patterns. What in the world? Aizawa muttered, moving closer to the displays. Her quirk factor is operating at 213% normal efficiency, but her biological stamina drain is only at 42% typical levels. Midnight studied the readings with growing amazement. It's as if she's using energy from outside her body to supplement her quirk. I didn't think that was possible. It shouldn't be, Aizawa said flatly. Quirks are biological functions tied to specific genetic expressions. They don't interact with external energy sources. And yet, Midnight gestured to the undeniable readings, empirical evidence suggests otherwise. On the training ground, pieces of advanced technology continued emerging from Momo's skin, armored plating, circuitry, power distribution systems. What would normally have exhausted her in minutes was flowing more smoothly, her expression showing strain but not the usual fatigue. Naruto remained close, occasionally adjusting her stance or redirecting her focus with a light touch to her shoulder. The casual intimacy of these corrections wasn't lost on the observing teachers. She's falling for him, Aizawa noted bluntly. Midnight didn't deny it. Can you blame her? He's literally teaching her to transcend the limitations she's struggled with since her quirk manifested. Not to mention he's Charismatic, powerful, mysterious, Aizawa finished dryly. A teenage girl's fantasy walking around in orange. Don't be reductive, Midnight chided. Yaoyorozu isn't some starry-eyed child. She's approaching this from an analytical perspective. With hearts in her analytical eyes, Aizawa muttered. Outside, the armor system had fully materialized, a sleek exoskeleton with integrated support features and what appeared to be energy redirection capabilities. Momo staggered slightly as the final components formed, and Naruto steadied her with a hand on her arm. Easy, he said. That was incredible, but don't push too far on your first full attempt. Momo straightened, examining her creation with genuine pride. It worked. The complete system, all at once. She looked up at Naruto, her eyes bright with accomplishment. I've never been able to create something this complex in a single session before. You're a natural at energy perception, Naruto praised. Most people take months to develop that level of awareness. Momo began testing the armor system, flexing joints and checking connection points. The material quality is superior too. Normally when I rush complex creations, molecular stability suffers. Because you're not just using more energy, you're using it more efficiently, Naruto explained. It's like the difference between forcing water through a narrow pipe versus opening a floodgate. Same water, totally different flow. In the observation room, Aizawa had moved from skepticism to reluctant interest. This could have significant implications for how we understand quirk limitations. If Yaoyorozu can teach these techniques to other students. That's assuming it works for other quirk types, Midnight cautioned. Creation may be uniquely compatible with Uzumaki's methods because it already involves energy-to-matter conversion. Their discussion was interrupted by an alert on the security monitors. Principal Nizu appeared on screen, his expression serious despite his perpetually cheerful appearance. Midnight, Eraserhead, we have a situation. Please bring Uzumaki and Yaoyorozu to the conference room immediately. There's been a development regarding our mechanical visitors. The conference room screens displayed satellite imagery of what appeared to be an impact site in a remote forest area of northern Japan. Scorch marks radiated outward from a central crater, and strange metallic structures had begun forming in a geometric pattern. This appeared approximately 3 hours ago, Principal Nizu explained to the assembled group. Satellite thermal imaging detected an atmospheric entry consistent with our mechanical visitors, but on a much larger scale. Naruto studied the images with uncharacteristic seriousness. That's not just another hunter. That's a foothold. Meaning? All Might asked. The number 1 hero had joined them, currently in his diminished form to conserve energy. They're establishing a base, Naruto explained. In my world, when an enemy wanted to infiltrate foreign territory, they'd establish a chakra anchor point first, a place to gather intelligence and coordinate attacks. Momo stepped closer to the screens, still wearing parts of her newly created armor system. The geometric arrangement follows a pattern similar to the internal structure of the mechanical entities we've encountered. It's like they're building a larger version of themselves. Our government contacts report unusual energy readings from the site, Nizu continued. Similar to the signature our sensors detected from the previous mechanical entities, but exponentially stronger. They're setting up to track me more efficiently, Naruto concluded. And probably to process whatever they harvest. Midnight turned to him. Harvest? You think that's their primary objective? Naruto nodded grimly. These things have been consistent, they want my chakra, and they were interested in All Might's quirk too. They're not just attacking randomly, they're collecting energy. For what purpose? Eraserhead asked. That's what worries me, Naruto admitted. In my world, harvesting chakra on this scale usually meant someone was trying to power something catastrophic, like reviving the Ten Tails or casting a worldwide genjutsu. The assembled heroes exchanged concerned glances at the casual mention of world-ending threats. The government is assembling a response team, Nizu informed them. But given what we know about these entities' interest in Uzumaki specifically, they've requested our input on strategy. I need to go there, Naruto said immediately. If they want me so badly, let's use that. I can get close enough to find out what they're planning. Absolutely not, Aizawa interjected. You're their primary target. Delivering yourself to their doorstep is exactly what they want. I'm not suggesting walking in the front door, Naruto countered. I can send shadow clones to scout while staying at a safe distance. If they're detected, they'll just disperse without giving away my actual position. All Might stroked his chin thoughtfully. The young man's abilities do offer unique tactical advantages. Conventional heroes might struggle against these mechanical entities, as we've seen. I should go as well, Momo spoke up, surprising everyone. She gestured to her armor. I've specifically designed this system to counteract the energy-draining capabilities we've observed. The resonance technology that worked before has been integrated into this suit. Yaoyorozu, you're still a student, Aizawa reminded her. This is potentially an Omega-level threat situation. With respect, sir, Momo replied firmly, I'm the only one who fully understands the countermeasures we developed. And after this morning's training, my creation Quirk is operating more efficiently than ever before. Midnight studied her student with a mixture of concern and pride. She has a point, Aizawa. Her technical knowledge of these entities exceeds our own at this point. Principal Nizu's whiskers twitched as he considered the situation. I propose a compromise. We assemble a small reconnaissance team, Uzumaki, Midnight, and Yaoyorozu, with additional pro-hero support on standby. The mission is strictly information gathering, not engagement. I can coordinate from a mobile command center, Aizawa suggested reluctantly. Present Mike and I will provide backup if needed. All Might straightened in his chair. I should remain here, Nizu interrupted gently. After your last encounter with these entities, we can't risk them harvesting more of your quirk, All Might. Especially given your current limitations. The symbol of peace deflated slightly but nodded in understanding. His secret condition was known only to those in the room, and the reminder was enough to temper his heroic impulses. Then it's settled, Nizu concluded. The reconnaissance team will depart in 2 hours. I'll inform the government agencies of our approach. As the meeting adjourned, Naruto caught up with Momo in the hallway. That armor system you created is seriously impressive, but are you sure you want to come along? These things are no joke. Momo adjusted one of the gauntlets, a determined expression on her face. I'm certain. This is exactly what I've trained for at UA, applying my quirk to real-world crisis situations. Well, I'm glad to have you on the team, Naruto grinned. Just stay close, okay? These mechanical hunters move fast when they detect a target. Speaking of which, Momo said, reaching into a compartment in her armor, I created something for you. She handed him what looked like a small, intricately designed pendant. It's a chakra-dampening device, my attempt to replicate the effect of Eraserhead's quirk but specifically tuned to the frequency of your energy signature. Naruto examined it with genuine appreciation. This is incredible. How does it work? It doesn't block your abilities, Momo explained. But it should mask your chakra signature from detection when you're not actively using techniques. I analyzed the tracking methods the mechanical entities use and designed this to create interference. Naruto slipped the pendant around his neck, feeling a subtle shift as the device activated. It feels like wearing a light blanket over my chakra. Not restricting, just muffling it. Precisely the intended effect, Momo nodded, pleased with his description. It should allow your shadow clones to approach the site without immediately triggering their tracking systems. Further down the hallway, Midnight observed their interaction with thoughtful eyes. The easy collaboration between them, the way Naruto's praise brought a flush of pride to Momo's cheeks, the natural alignment of their respective skills, it was developing into something beyond a simple research partnership. Worried about your student? Aizawa asked, appearing beside her with his usual stealth. Concerned, but not worried, Midnight replied. Yayorozu has always been cautious to a fault. This is the first time I've seen her truly push her limits without overthinking every variable. And our dimensional visitor? Do you trust him? Midnight considered the question seriously. Yes, I think I do. There's an authenticity to him that's hard to fake. Whatever secrets he still holds, I don't believe he intends any harm. Aizawa grunted noncommittally. Just be careful out there. These mechanical entities have been escalating with each encounter. This foothold site could be a significant jump in their capabilities. Ever the optimist, Midnight teased. Don't worry, we'll maintain a safe perimeter. Reconnaissance only, as Nizu instructed. Right, Aizawa sighed. Because reconnaissance missions always go exactly as planned. The government transport helicopter approached the impact site from the southwest, maintaining enough altitude to avoid immediate detection. Inside, Naruto sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed in concentration while Midnight and Momo reviewed satellite imagery with the pilot. The energy signature is expanding, the pilot reported, indicating a growing red area on his display. Whatever they're building down there, it's getting stronger by the hour. Set us down in this clearing, Midnight instructed, pointing to a location 5 kilometers from the impact zone. Close enough for Uzumaki's clones to reach the site quickly but outside their likely detection perimeter. As the helicopter began its descent, Naruto opened his eyes. I've been gathering natural energy while we flew over. There's something weird about this area now. Weird how? Momo asked, looking up from her displays. It's like. Naruto frowned, searching for the right words. Like the natural energy is being pulled toward the impact site. Not just flowing naturally, but actually being drawn in, like water down a drain. The helicopter touched down in the forested clearing. As they disembarked, Eraserhead's voice came through their communication devices from the mobile command center several miles away. Thermal imaging shows increased activity at the northeast quadrant of the site. Whatever they're building appears to be focusing there. Understood, Midnight replied. We're establishing a perimeter. Uzumaki will deploy reconnaissance units shortly. Naruto moved to the edge of the clearing, hands forming the familiar cross sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 20 perfect duplicates appeared in puffs of smoke, each wearing one of Momo's chakra-dampening pendants. The original Naruto gave them quick instructions before they scattered into the forest, moving with practiced stealth toward different sectors of the impact site. Impressive, Midnight observed. Each operates independently. Completely, Naruto confirmed. They know what to look for and how to avoid detection. When one dispels, I'll get all its memories and observations instantly. Momo had set up a portable monitoring station, her armor systems interfacing with the equipment. I'm tracking ambient energy patterns. The disturbance Uzumaki-san mentioned is visible on these readings. Natural energy is indeed flowing toward the impact site at an accelerating rate. For the next 30 minutes, they maintained position while Naruto's clones infiltrated the area surrounding the mechanical foothold. Occasionally, Naruto would twitch or blink rapidly, a sign that one of his clones had dispersed and sent back information. What are you learning? Midnight asked after one such moment. It's definitely a processing facility of some kind, Naruto replied, eyes slightly unfocused as he integrated the new memories. The central structure is like a massive version of the hunters we fought, but stationary. It has collection tendrils extending outward for kilometers, drawing in energy from the environment. Similar to how you gather natural energy in Sage mode, Momo noted. But industrial scale. Naruto nodded. And it's not just passive collection. The tendrils are actively converting the surrounding forest, breaking down matter to extract energy. Trees, animals, everything. That explains the expanding dead zone on our satellite imagery, Midnight said grimly. They're consuming the ecosystem. Another of Naruto's clones dispersed, causing him to tense suddenly. We've got company. There are humanoid units patrolling the perimeter, more advanced than the hunters we've encountered before. They look almost human, except for the mechanical components. Humanoid. Momo frowned, adjusting her monitoring equipment. That suggests they're adapting to our world more comprehensively. Perhaps learning from their encounters with heroes. Before they could discuss this further, one of the monitoring devices emitted a warning tone. Momo's eyes widened as she checked the readings. Energy surge from the impact site. Something's happening. In the forest beyond their position, a pulse of visible energy expanded outward from the central structure, a rippling wave that bent trees and disturbed the very air. As it passed over them, Naruto staggered, grabbing a nearby tree for support. Uzumaki. Midnight moved to his side. What's wrong? That pulse. He grimaced, it just forcibly dispersed all my remaining clones. And it felt familiar somehow. Familiar how? Momo asked, concern evident in her voice. Like chakra, but corrupted, Naruto explained, straightening with effort. Almost like when someone tries to use senjutsu without proper training, wild, unbalanced natural energy. Their communication devices crackled as Eraserhead's voice came through with increased urgency. We're detecting multiple targets moving rapidly toward your position. They've changed course suddenly, something must have given away your location. Naruto touched the chakra-dampening pendant at his neck, finding it unusually warm. The pulse overloaded these. They know exactly where I am now. Midnight made a quick tactical decision. Fall back to the extraction point. This is no longer a reconnaissance mission. They moved swiftly through the forest, Momo's armor enhancing her normal mobility as they headed back toward the helicopter landing zone. Naruto took point, his heightened senses alert for approaching threats. Multiple contacts, 2 o'clock, he warned, just before the trees ahead exploded into splinters. 3 humanoid figures emerged from the destruction, mechanical constructs with eerily human movements. Unlike the bulkier hunters from previous encounters, these were sleek, purpose-built combatants with weapons integrated into their limbs. Targets acquired, one announced, its voice unsettlingly organic. Primary objective detected. Secondary targets classified as hero associates. They've evolved their communication too, Momo observed, activating defensive systems in her armor. They're learning our terminology. The lead mechanical humanoid raised its arm, which transformed into a cannon-like apparatus. Surrender the origin energy vessel and the secondary targets will be spared. Origin energy. Midnight frowned. What are they talking about? Pretty sure that's me, Naruto replied, stepping forward. And sorry, but I'm not surrendering to anyone. The mechanical humanoid tilted its head in an almost curious gesture. Resistance anticipated. Harvesting will proceed regardless. All 3 attackers moved simultaneously, displaying coordination and tactical awareness far beyond the previous mechanical entities. One fired an energy pulse at Midnight while another launched grappling tendrils toward Momo. The leader charged directly at Naruto, its limbs reconfiguring into bladed weapons. Naruto met the charge head-on, matching the mechanical humanoid's speed with his own natural agility. As they clashed, the creature's blade sparked against a kunai Naruto had drawn. Despite its advanced construction, the mechanical humanoid found itself evenly matched in close combat. Your physical parameters exceed previous encounters, it noted, voice unnervingly calm despite the violent exchange. Recalibrating approach. Yeah. Recalibrate this. Naruto created 3 shadow clones that attacked from different angles, forcing the mechanical humanoid to divide its attention. Meanwhile, Midnight had dodged the energy pulse and closed distance with her attacker, her whip lashing out to entangle its weapon arm. As the mechanical humanoid struggled against the restraint, she released her somnambulist quirk at close range, targeting what appeared to be organic components in its construction. Their structures include biological elements now, she called out. My quirk is having partial effect. Momo had engaged the 3rd attacker, her armor successfully deflecting its initial grappling attempt. With precise movements, she created a specialized electromagnetic pulse device directly from her palm and slammed it against the mechanical humanoid's chest. Adaptive countermeasures detected, the creature announced as the EMP discharged. Its movement stuttered but didn't cease entirely. Partial systems failure. Initiating recovery protocols. They're resistant to the same tactics that worked before, Momo warned, creating a secondary weapon, a staff charged with concentrated electrical energy. Naruto's opponent had adapted to the shadow clone assault, developing a spinning defense that systematically dispersed the duplicates. As the last clone vanished, the mechanical humanoid lunged forward with unexpected speed, one blade piercing Naruto's shoulder. Energy source confirmed, it announced. Beginning extraction. The blade began to glow as it attempted to drain Naruto's chakra directly. Instead of pulling away, Naruto grabbed the mechanical arm, holding the creature in place. "You want my chakra?" he growled, eyes shifting to Sage mode. "Fine. Let's see how much you can handle." Natural energy surged through Naruto's body and into the mechanical humanoid. The creature's systems began to overload immediately, unable to process the sudden influx of raw, unfiltered Sage chakra. Energy variance outside acceptable parameters, it stated, voice distorting as its components began to fail. Cannot process, cannot, the mechanical humanoid's body convulsed as the Sage chakra overwhelmed its systems. Parts began to fracture, glowing with orange energy that leaked from every joint. Withdrawal required. Before it could complete the statement, Naruto formed a Rasengan in his free hand and drove it into the creature's core. Too late for that. The mechanical humanoid exploded in a shower of components, the force knocking back the other two attackers momentarily. Naruto turned to his companions, Sage markings still prominent around his eyes. "These things are tougher than the previous models, but they still can't handle natural energy properly. Target the central processing units in their chests." Midnight seized the opening created by the explosion, intensifying her quirk release while lashing her opponent with precision strikes of her whip. As the mechanical humanoid's movements slowed under the influence of her somnambulist mist, she delivered a powerful kick to its chest plate, cracking the protective covering. "Yaoyorozu, now!" Momo had already created a specialized penetrating charge, which she threw with perfect accuracy into the exposed chest cavity of Midnight's opponent. The device detonated, destroying the central processor and causing the mechanical humanoid to collapse. The final attacker assessed its suddenly unfavorable situation and attempted to retreat, its limbs reconfiguring for maximum speed. Naruto wasn't about to let it escape. "Oh no, you don't." He charged forward, enhanced by Sage mode, and intercepted the fleeing mechanical humanoid with devastating impact. His fist connected with its chest, driving through the armor plating to crush the central processor directly. The creature seized up, systems failing catastrophically as it crumpled to the ground. As the immediate threat subsided, Naruto released Sage mode, wincing slightly as he examined the wound in his shoulder. "These new models are definitely a step up from what we faced before." Midnight approached, already examining his injury. "That looks deep. We should get you medical attention." "It'll heal," Naruto assured her. "Perks of having crazy chakra reserves. But we should definitely get moving before more show up." Momo was already scanning the fallen mechanical humanoids, her armor systems collecting data. These units have a completely different internal architecture from the previous hunters. They're purpose-built for combat against heroes specifically. Their communication devices activated as Eraserhead's voice came through. "More hostiles incoming from the impact site. Multiple signatures, moving fast. Extraction helicopter is 2 minutes out. Get to the landing zone immediately." They abandoned detailed analysis in favor of rapid retreat, moving through the forest toward their extraction point. As they ran, Naruto created more shadow clones to lay false trails and set up diversionary tactics. "Something's bothering me," Midnight said as they ran. "That mechanical humanoid called you an origin energy vessel. What did it mean by that?" "No idea," Naruto replied, scanning the forest ahead for threats. But it's the first time they've called me anything other than an energy source or primary target. Origin energy. Momo repeated thoughtfully. That terminology suggests they recognize something fundamental about your chakra, something that relates to an origin point. Before they could discuss further, they reached the clearing where the helicopter was descending, its rotors whipping the surrounding foliage. As they approached the landing zone, a massive energy surge erupted from the forest behind them. Incoming! Naruto shouted, just as a new mechanical entity burst through the tree line. This one dwarfed the humanoid units they'd faced earlier, a towering construct nearly 15 feet tall with multiple limbs and what appeared to be a throne-like structure at its center. Seated within this protected core was something unexpected, a partially mechanical figure with distinctly human features. At last, the figure spoke, its voice amplified by surrounding systems. The origin vessel reveals itself. Midnight moved into a defensive stance between the new threat and the helicopter. Who are you? Kurogyri, the figure replied. Leader of the Shadow Hand. And you are interfering with a collection process thousands of years in the making. Naruto stepped forward, eyes narrowed. You're the one sending these mechanical things after me. Merely extensions of my will, Kurogyri explained, gesturing with a hand that was half flesh, half metal. Designed to locate and harvest the origin energy that you so inconveniently contain. Origin energy again, Momo noted, her armor's system scanning the new entity. What exactly do you mean by that? Kurogyri's partially mechanical face formed what might have been a smile. How fascinating. You don't even know what you possess. His gaze fixed on Naruto. The energy flowing through you, what you call the chakra, is the primordial force from which all abilities in this world evolved. The original power before it fragmented into the limited expressions they call quirks. This revelation caused a momentary silence as they processed the implications. You're saying his chakra is related to the origin of quirks? Midnight asked incredulously. Not related, Kurogyri corrected. It is the origin. Pure, undiluted, and remarkably complete within this vessel. The mechanical limbs of his throne-like structure began to reconfigure, forming weapons and collection apparatus. And I will have it. The helicopter had touched down behind them, its pilot signaling urgently for them to board. They had seconds to decide their next move. Get to the helicopter, Naruto instructed. I'll hold him off. We're not leaving you, Momo objected immediately. You're not, Naruto assured her. But I need you both at a safe distance for what comes next. His eyes shifted again, entering sage mode with practiced ease. Trust me. Something in his expression convinced them. Midnight nodded sharply, grabbing Momo's arm. We'll cover you from the air. As they retreated toward the helicopter, Kurogyri's mechanical throne advanced. Your companions cannot save you, origin vessel. The collection has already begun. The ground beneath Naruto's feet began to glow with strange symbols, not technology but something more arcane, like sealing formulas. He recognized a trap activating and leapt skyward just as energy erupted from the marked earth. Impressive reflexes, Kurogyri noted. But ultimately futile. Mechanical tendrils shot upward, attempting to ensnare Naruto midair. With sage-enhanced perception, he twisted between them, forming hand signs even as he evaded. Wind-style, vacuum serial waves. Blades of compressed air sliced through the mechanical tendrils, severing them cleanly. Naruto landed on a nearby tree branch, immediately launching into another technique. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A dozen clones appeared, each entering Sage mode simultaneously. They scattered in different directions, confusing Kurogyri's targeting systems as they attacked from multiple angles. The helicopter had lifted off, hovering at a safe distance while Midnight and Momo watched the battle unfold. Through the transport surveillance systems, they could see Naruto and his clones systematically dismantling the outer defenses of Kurogyri's mechanical throne. His combat capabilities are extraordinary, Momo observed, monitoring energy readings. But Kurogyri's system is unlike anything we've encountered so far. The energy signature suggests technology far beyond our current understanding. Inside the mechanical throne, Kurogyri remained calm despite the ongoing assault. Impressive display, origin vessel. But ultimately predictable. The entire structure suddenly pulsed with energy, emitting a shockwave that dispersed all of Naruto's shadow clones instantly. Before Naruto could recover, the ground beneath him liquefied into a metallic substance that surged upward, encasing his legs. What the? Naruto struggled against the restraint as it rapidly climbed his body. This isn't technology. Perceptive, Kurogyri acknowledged. What you're experiencing is the fusion of technology with what you might call quirk energy, harvested from hundreds of subjects and refined for my purposes. From the helicopter, Momo's eyes widened in horror. He's stealing quirks. That's impossible. Midnight's expression darkened. Apparently not. And he's about to add Uzumaki's power to his collection. Below, the metallic substance had encased Naruto up to his chest, immobilizing his arms. Kurogyri's throne approached, collection apparatus extending toward the captive shinobi. Don't resist, Kurogyri advised. The process will be less painful if you surrender to it. Your energy will serve a greater purpose, the restoration of the original power to this fractured world. Inside the helicopter, Momo made a sudden decision. She removed a component from her armor and pressed it into Midnight's hand. This is a targeted EMP device, she explained rapidly. If you can get it close enough to Kurogyri's central unit, what are you planning? Midnight demanded. A rescue, Momo replied simply, before leaping from the helicopter. As she fell, her creation quirk activated with unprecedented efficiency. Material flowed from her exposed skin, rapidly forming not a simple object but an entire support system, gliding wings, propulsion units, and impact cushioning. The improvised flight suit slowed her descent as she angled toward Kurogyri's blind spot. Below, Naruto continued struggling against his restraints, gathering natural energy despite his immobilized state. The metallic substance reacted negatively to the sage chakra, its structure destabilizing wherever it contacted the orange pigmentation spreading across Naruto's skin. Fascinating, Kurogyri observed. Your energy actively resists assimilation. All the more valuable. You have no idea what you're messing with, Naruto warned, his sage transformation intensifying. Natural energy isn't something you can just harvest and control. The collection apparatus made contact with Naruto's chest, beginning the extraction process. Energy visibly flowed from him into Kurogyri's systems, causing the mechanical throne to glow with increasing brightness. Yes, Kurogyri breathed, his partially mechanical features alight with triumph. The origin energy. After all these centuries, his celebration was interrupted by an electromagnetic pulse that struck the back of his throne, temporarily disrupting its systems. The collection process faltered as Momo landed on the structure's upper section, planting additional EMP devices at crucial junctions. Yaoyorozu. Naruto called out in surprise. Annoying insect, Kurogyri snarled, mechanical defense systems targeting Momo immediately. She evaded with the enhanced mobility of her armor, creating more disruptive devices as she moved across the throne's surface. The collection system has a vulnerability where the energy transfers to the central core. Find it. Naruto understood immediately. With renewed determination, he channeled more sage chakra into his restraints, accelerating their deterioration. As the metallic substance began to crack, he could feel the connection points where his energy was being siphoned. From above, Midnight had directed the helicopter pilot to position them optimally. Using Momo's device, she fired a targeted EMP at the collection apparatus attached to Naruto. The precision strike disrupted the energy flow momentarily, just enough for Naruto to break one arm free. That's all I needed, he declared, forming a familiar hand sign. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Despite the ongoing energy drain, dozens of shadow clones appeared around the clearing, each immediately entering Sage mode. They launched a coordinated assault on Kurojire's throne, targeting the weak points Momo had identified with her analysis. Kurojire's composure finally broke as his systems began failing under the multi-pronged attack. No. The collection cannot be interrupted at this stage. The mechanical throne destabilized as critical components were destroyed by Naruto's clones. Momo leapt clear of the collapsing structure, her armor absorbing the impact as she landed near Naruto. The restraint material reacts negatively to your sage energy, she noted, helping him break free of the remaining metallic substance. It's designed to harvest regular chakra but becomes brittle when exposed to natural energy. Good to know, Naruto grinned despite the situation. Nice entrance, by the way. Jumping from a helicopter. Pretty hardcore for a student. I calculated the risks, she replied with a hint of pride. My new understanding of energy efficiency made the creation of a functional gliding apparatus possible mid-fall. The mechanical throne had begun a catastrophic collapse, its energy containment systems failing. At its center, Kurojire frantically attempted to salvage the harvested energy, drawing it into his partially mechanical body directly. You fools, he shouted as power visibly coursed through him. Do you have any idea what you're preventing? The reunification of the fractured power. The restoration of what was lost. The ground beneath them trembled as energy surged uncontrollably around Kurojire's form. His mechanical components began to glow with dangerous intensity, circuits overloading as they attempted to contain power they weren't designed to handle. We need to get out of here, Naruto said urgently, grabbing Momo's arm. He's going critical. The helicopter descended as close as safety permitted, Midnight signaling frantically for them to hurry. As they ran toward extraction, Kurojire made one final, desperate attempt. Origin vessel, he called out, his voice distorting as his systems failed. You cannot escape your purpose. The forbidden archives foretold your arrival. The origin sage returns when the cycle completes. Naruto hesitated briefly at these words, looking back at the deteriorating figure. What archives? What cycle? Beneath the sacred mountain. Kurojire replied, his form beginning to dissolve into pure energy. The truth awaits you there. What you are, what you were always meant to be. Before Naruto could question further, the energy containment failed completely. A blinding flash erupted from Kurojire's position, followed by a shockwave that flattened trees for hundreds of meters in all directions. Naruto reacted instinctively, throwing himself over Momo to shield her from the blast while channeling chakra to anchor them both to the ground. The helicopter was caught in the turbulence, spinning dangerously before the pilot managed to stabilize it at a higher altitude. When the light faded and the dust settled, Kurojire and his mechanical throne had vanished completely. Only a scorched crater remained, with strange symbols burned into the earth around its perimeter. Naruto helped Momo to her feet, both of them staring at the destruction in stunned silence. The helicopter landed nearby, Midnight rushing to check on them. Are you all right? She demanded, examining them for injuries. We're fine, Naruto assured her, though his expression remained troubled. But Kurojire, he said something about forbidden archives and a sacred mountain. He knew things about me, about this origin energy I supposedly have. Momo was already examining the symbols burned into the ground, her scientific curiosity overriding even the recent danger. These patterns, they're not random. They appear to be some form of ancient writing system. Midnight knelt beside her, studying the markings. I've never seen anything like this. It doesn't match any known historical script. Because it's older, Naruto suggested, touching one of the symbols. It resonated faintly with his chakra, glowing momentarily at his contact. Maybe much older than recorded history. Their comms crackled as Eraserhead's voice came through. The impact site is showing decreased activity following that energy surge. Whatever happened seems to have disrupted their operations temporarily. Extraction team, report status. We're alive, Midnight replied. Kurogyri is gone. But we have new information and some unusual artifacts to analyze. Return to base immediately, Eraserhead instructed. The government is securing the impact site with a specialized containment team. We need to debrief and assess what we've learned. As they boarded the helicopter, Naruto cast one last glance at the mysterious symbols. Something about them felt naggingly familiar, like a half-remembered dream. Whatever Kurogyri had meant about origin energy and forbidden archives, it was clear that his arrival in this world wasn't as random as he had initially believed. The helicopter lifted off, carrying them away from the devastation below. In the relative privacy of the transport, Momo moved closer to Naruto, her expression a mixture of scientific curiosity and genuine concern. That energy he was extracting from you, she said quietly. I've never seen readings like that before. It was as if reality itself was bending around the transfer point. Naruto nodded grimly. I felt it too. Whatever he was doing, it wasn't just taking my chakra, it was resonating with something deeper. Something fundamental. Do you think he was telling the truth? Momo asked. About your energy being the origin of quirks. Naruto stared out the window at the passing landscape, his usual carefree expression replaced by thoughtful introspection. I don't know. But in my world, legends about the origin of chakra talked about a primordial tree that granted power to humans. If something similar happened here with quirks. Midnight had been listening quietly to their exchange. There are ancient myths about the first quirk user, stories that predate reliable historical records. Most scholars dismiss them as folklore, but perhaps there's more truth to them than we realized. These forbidden archives Kurogyri mentioned, Momo continued, if they exist, they might contain answers about both the origin of quirks and why you were brought to our world. The helicopter banked toward UA, the Academy's distinctive architecture visible in the distance. As they approached, Naruto's expression resolved into determination. Then we need to find them, he decided. Starting with this sacred mountain, he mentioned. Japan has several mountains considered sacred in various traditions, Midnight noted. Narrowing it down won't be easy without more information. Those symbols at the crater, Momo suggested. If I can analyze them, cross-reference with ancient writing systems, it might give us a starting point. Naruto smiled at her enthusiasm. Looks like we've got our next mission then. As they prepared for landing, none of them noticed a small mechanical device attached to the helicopter's undercarriage, a transmission unit sending data back to multiple identical receivers scattered across Japan. Despite Kurogyri's apparent destruction, his network remained operational, adapting to this unexpected setback. And deep beneath one particular mountain, ancient systems that had lain dormant for centuries began to stir, responding to the presence of origin energy in the world once more. The UA research laboratory hummed with activity as Momo worked tirelessly at her station, surrounded by holographic displays showing the mysterious symbols from the crater. 3 days had passed since their encounter with Kurogyri, and she had barely left the lab except for essential classes. You should get some rest, Power Loader suggested, the support department teacher checking in on her progress. Those symbols will still be there after you've slept. I'm close to a breakthrough, Momo replied without looking up. The pattern recognition software identified partial matches with pre-quirk archaeological findings from 7 different sites across Japan. Power Loader examined her work with professional interest. Impressive analysis. But pushing yourself to exhaustion won't help anyone, especially not Uzumaki. At the mention of Naruto, Momo's expression softened slightly. How is he doing with the recovery tests? See for yourself, Power Loader gestured toward the observation window overlooking the adjacent testing chamber. Inside, Naruto stood at the center of an array of specialized equipment while Recovery Girl monitored his vitals. His shirt was removed, revealing intricate sealing marks across his abdomen, remnants of the Jinchuriki seal that had once contained the Nine Tails. His healing rate is extraordinary, Recovery Girl was explaining to Principal Nizu. The energy extraction attempt left significant cellular damage, but it's repairing itself at a pace I've never witnessed before. Even regeneration quirks don't work this efficiently. Naruto noticed Momo watching through the window and gave her a cheerful wave, seemingly unbothered by being a medical curiosity. She returned the gesture with a small smile before turning back to her analysis. "He acts like nothing happened," she murmured, "but that extraction process nearly killed him. I saw the readings. Yet he's back to full strength already," Power Loader noted. "Resilient, that one." Momo's fingers moved rapidly across her workstation, correlating new data points. The 7 archaeological sites with matching symbols form a specific geometric pattern when mapped. She displayed a map of Japan with the sites highlighted. "And at the center is Mount Takao," Power Loader read, leaning closer to the display. "Interesting choice. It has historical significance but isn't among the most famous sacred mountains. It's within day trip distance of Tokyo," Momo noted, excitement building in her voice. "And according to historical records, there are unexplored cave systems beneath certain sections of the mountain that predated the shrine construction." The door to the lab slid open as Midnight entered, carrying a stack of ancient texts. "Yaoyorozu, I found something you should see." The university archives had these manuscripts on early quirk manifestations. She placed the books on the workstation, opening one to a marked page. "Look at this illustration." The faded image showed a figure surrounded by swirling energy, with symbols around the border that closely resembled those from the crater site. Below the illustration was text in archaic Japanese. "The origin sage gathers the power of nature itself," Midnight translated. "Neither mortal nor god, but the vessel through which fractured power may be made whole again." Momo stared at the illustration with widening eyes. "This can't be coincidence." The same terminology Kurojiri used. Origin sage, fractured power. "And look at the depiction," Midnight pointed to details in the illustration. "The facial markings around the eyes, the energy pattern, it bears a striking resemblance to Uzumaki in his sage mode." "When was this written?" Power Loader asked, examining the text with professional interest. According to the university archivists, this manuscript dates back to the earliest recorded quirk manifestations, over 200 years ago, Midnight explained. But the text itself claims to be transcribing much older oral traditions. The testing chamber door opened as Naruto and Principal Nizu concluded their session. Naruto had donned his shirt again, looking completely recovered despite the extensive tests he'd undergone. "How's the symbol analysis going?" he asked cheerfully as he entered the lab. Then, noticing their serious expressions, "What? Did you find something bad?" Momo hesitated, then turned the book toward him. "We found, you. Or someone remarkably similar." Naruto examined the illustration, his usual carefree expression giving way to genuine surprise. "That's definitely sage mode. The eye markings, the nature energy flow pattern." He looked up at them. "How is this possible? This book is from your world, right?" "It's an early historical text on quirk manifestations," Midnight confirmed. "But it references traditions that supposedly predate quirks entirely." Principal Nizu studied the illustration with intense interest. "The implications are fascinating. Either your arrival was prophesied centuries ago, or I've been here before," Naruto finished quietly. "Or someone like me." The laboratory fell silent as they contemplated this possibility. "The geographical analysis suggests Mount Takao as the likely location of the sacred mountain Kurojiri mentioned," Momo finally said, displaying her findings on the main screen. "The matching symbols appear at 7 sites forming a pattern with Takao at the center." "Then that's where we need to go," Naruto decided immediately. "If these forbidden archives exist, they might explain why I was brought here and what connection I have to this world's quirks." Principal Nizu considered this with his typical analytical thoroughness. "This warrants investigation, certainly. However, we must proceed with caution. If Kurojiri had allies, they may be watching for exactly this kind of expedition." I've been working on something that might help with that, Momo said, moving to another workstation where components of her armor lay partially disassembled. An enhanced version of the chakra dampening technology, integrated with stealth systems developed by the support department. She activated a display showing the modified design. It should mask both Uzumaki-san's energy signature and our electronic footprint, making us virtually undetectable to conventional surveillance. Impressive work, young Yaoyorozu, Nizu nodded approvingly. Your application of theoretical concepts to practical solutions continues to exceed expectations. Naruto grinned at Momo. See? I told you understanding natural energy would help your creation process. Momo's cheeks colored slightly at the praise, though she maintained her professional composure. The principles you taught me about energy flow optimization have proven invaluable for my Quirk applications. Midnight observed this exchange with a knowing smile before addressing Principal Nizu. I recommend a small reconnaissance team, myself, Uzumaki, and Yaoyorozu. We worked effectively together during the previous mission, and Yaoyorozu's technical expertise will be essential for identifying and interpreting any archives we discover. Nizu considered this proposal. Aizawa won't be pleased about involving a student in what could potentially be a dangerous expedition. With respect, sir, Momo interjected with quiet determination, I've been central to this research from the beginning. My creation quirk and analytical skills make me uniquely qualified for this mission. Naruto nodded in agreement. She's right. Momo's already saved my life once with her quick thinking and those devices she created. Plus, she's the one who actually figured out where we need to go. The principal's whiskers twitched thoughtfully. Very well. The expedition is approved, but with strict parameters. This is strictly investigative, no engagement with hostile forces if encountered. And you will maintain constant communication with UA throughout. When do we leave? Naruto asked eagerly. Tomorrow morning, Nizu decided. This will give young Yaoyorozu time to complete her stealth systems and for us to properly prepare. Mount Takao is a popular tourist destination, so you'll need to be discreet in your exploration. As they began planning the logistics of their expedition, Naruto found himself drawn back to the ancient illustration. Something about it resonated with him on a level deeper than simple visual similarity, as if he were remembering rather than discovering. Origin Sage, he murmured, tracing the symbols around the figure. What does that even mean? The early morning mist clung to the slopes of Mount Takao as the small expedition made their way up the less traveled trails. Despite being a popular tourist destination, the mountain's network of paths included many secluded routes known primarily to locals and serious hikers. Naruto, dressed in hiking gear rather than his usual orange outfit, led the way with natural agility. Midnight followed in civilian clothes that nonetheless managed to be stylishly appropriate for mountain hiking. Momo brought up the rear, her backpack containing specialized equipment she had created specifically for this mission. According to the geographical analysis, the cave system should be accessible through a ravine approximately half a kilometer off this trail, Momo explained, consulting her custom navigation device. Historical records indicate it was sealed during the Meiji era, but the seals themselves incorporate some of the symbols we identified. Can you sense anything unusual? Midnight asked Naruto, who had occasionally been closing his eyes to focus as they hiked. There's definitely something weird about the natural energy flow here, he confirmed. It's subtle, but there are currents moving through the mountain that don't feel natural, almost like chakra pathways in a body. They diverted from the marked trail, moving carefully through denser forest until they reached a steep ravine partially hidden by vegetation. Ancient stone markers with weathered inscriptions lined what might once have been a formal approach. These are the same symbols from the crater site, Momo observed, photographing the markers with her device. But arranged in a different pattern, more like instructions than warnings. Naruto approached one of the stone markers, touching it lightly. The symbol responded to his contact, glowing faintly with the same resonance they had observed at the crater. They're reactive to your chakra, Midnight noted. Try touching them in sequence. Following her suggestion, Naruto moved from marker to marker, each one illuminating as he made contact. When he reached the final stone, the entire sequence glowed simultaneously, and a rumbling sound emanated from deeper in the ravine. "I think we found our entrance," he said with a grin. They proceeded cautiously down the ravine until they reached what appeared to be a rock fall blocking further progress. However, the stones were now shifting, rearranging themselves to reveal a narrow passage that had been concealed for generations. "Remarkable," Momo breathed, examining the mechanism. "This isn't modern technology. The stones are responding to some kind of energy circuit that was activated by the markers." "Ancient chakra technology," Naruto suggested. "In my world, the Uzumaki clan specialized in this kind of thing, seals that could last for centuries, responding only to specific chakra signatures." The passage beyond was dark but surprisingly free of debris, as if preserved against time itself. Momo created specialized luminescent rods that provided light without disturbing the ancient environment. As they advanced deeper into the mountain, the passage opened into a larger chamber with branching corridors. "The air is remarkably fresh for a sealed cave system," Midnight observed. "There must be natural ventilation somewhere." Momo scanned the chamber with her equipment. "These walls, they're embedded with microscopic crystalline structures that appear to be processing energy in some form. They might be purifying the air as a byproduct." Naruto had moved to the center of the chamber, where a circular platform stood with more of the mysterious symbols arranged in concentric rings. "Guys, I think this is some kind of hub. These symbols are pointing toward different corridors." Studying the arrangement, Momo nodded in agreement. "They appear to be directional indicators, possibly categorizing whatever lies down each path." "Can you translate any of it?" Midnight asked. "Not precisely, but there are repeating patterns that suggest themes," Momo replied, analyzing the symbols through her device. "This corridor seems associated with symbols we found connected to energy or power. And this one contains variants of what might be historical or chronological markers." Naruto pointed to a third passage. "What about this one? These symbols feel familiar somehow." Momo examined the indicated path. "Those contain elements similar to the origin sage references in the ancient text. If I had to guess, it might lead to information specifically about that concept." "Then that's where we should start," Naruto decided. The chosen corridor descended deeper into the mountain, its walls increasingly lined with intricate carvings that glowed faintly as they passed. The passage eventually opened into a vast chamber that took their breath away. The circular room was enormous, its domed ceiling at least 30 meters high and covered in luminescent crystals that provided natural illumination. The walls were entirely inscribed with the mysterious symbols, arranged in flowing patterns around central illustrations. At the room's center stood a raised platform with what appeared to be an altar or pedestal. "This is incredible," Midnight whispered, her voice carrying in the sacred space. A completely preserved pre-Quirk site, possibly dating back thousands of years. Momo was already recording everything, her equipment scanning the vast array of symbols and illustrations. "The amount of information here is overwhelming. It would take months to properly document and analyze it all." Naruto, however, was drawn directly to the central pedestal. Unlike the stone construction of the rest of the chamber, this structure appeared to be made of a crystalline material similar to the ceiling formations but with a deeper, almost translucent quality. "There's something inside it," he observed, peering into the crystalline surface. As he leaned closer, the entire pedestal suddenly illuminated, responding to his presence. Energy patterns rippled through the crystal, and the chamber itself seemed to awaken, all the wall inscriptions glowing more intensely. "What did you do?" Midnight asked, moving quickly to his side. "Nothing." Naruto replied, equally surprised. "It just recognized me somehow." The crystal pedestal continued to activate, its interior becoming transparent to reveal an object suspended within, what appeared to be an ancient scroll encased in protective energy. "It's some kind of stasis field," Momo theorized, scanning the phenomenon with her equipment. The scroll has been perfectly preserved within that energy matrix. As they watched, the crystal structure began to reconfigure, opening like a flower to expose the scroll while maintaining its protective field. Symbols around the base of the pedestal illuminated in sequence, apparently waiting for something. "I think it wants me to take it," Naruto said uncertainly. "Be careful," Midnight cautioned. Ancient security systems can be unpredictable. With cautious movements, Naruto extended his hand toward the suspended scroll. The protective field parted at his touch, allowing him to grasp the ancient document. As he lifted it from the pedestal, the energy matrix collapsed entirely, and the chamber's illumination stabilized at a steady glow. "It recognized you as authorized," Momo observed with amazement. "Just like the entrance markers." Naruto carefully unrolled the scroll, revealing text and diagrams in the same mysterious writing system they had been tracking. "I can't read any of this, but some of these illustrations." He pointed to a diagram showing a humanoid figure with energy flowing into it from the environment, remarkably similar to the process of gathering natural energy for Sage Mode. "That's definitely showing Senjutsu," he confirmed. "And look at this one, it's showing chakra pathways, just like in my world." Momo photographed each section of the scroll as Naruto carefully unrolled it further. The consistency of symbolism across dimensions suggests a common origin for both chakra in your world and quirks in ours. As they reached the center of the scroll, they found an illustration that stopped them cold, a perfect depiction of the Ten Tails from Naruto's world, surrounded by smaller figures representing what appeared to be early quirk users. "That's impossible," Naruto breathed. "The Ten Tails was sealed away in my world. How could it be connected to this one?" Midnight studied the illustration with deep concern. "What exactly is this, Ten Tails, in your world?" "The original source of all chakra, a primordial entity of immense power," Naruto explained, his usual light-hearted demeanor completely gone. "In my world, it was sealed away, then later its power was divided into the nine-tailed beasts, including the nine tails that was sealed inside me." "And according to this," Momo said slowly, examining the accompanying symbols, "something similar may have happened here. A great power that was fractured into smaller expressions, possibly the first quirks." They continued unrolling the scroll, revealing more illustrations that depicted what appeared to be a cycle: power gathering, fracturing, dispersing, and eventually reconverging. The final image showed two worlds connected by a bridge of energy, with a figure standing between them. "The Origin Sage," Midnight murmured, recognizing the similarities to both the ancient text illustration and to Naruto in Sage Mode. "The vessel through which fractured power may be made whole again." Naruto stared at the illustration, a growing uneasiness settling over him. "This is why Kurogiri called me the Origin Vessel. According to this, I'm somehow supposed to be the connection between our worlds, the one who brings the fractured power back together. But to what end?" Momo questioned, scanning the final sections of the scroll. "Reunification of power sounds potentially catastrophic if mishandled." Before they could discuss further, the chamber suddenly trembled, dust falling from the ancient ceiling. A distant rumbling echoed through the passages. "Something's happening at the entrance," Midnight said sharply, her hero instincts kicking in. "We need to move." Naruto carefully rolled the scroll and secured it in his pack. "Let's head back to the main chamber. There might be another way out." They retraced their steps quickly, the mysterious illumination of the passages dimming as tremors continued to shake the cave system. As they reached the central hub chamber, they heard voices echoing from the entrance passage. "They found us," Naruto muttered, moving to a defensive position. "Momo, is that stealth tech of yours still working?" "It should be," she confirmed, checking her equipment. "Which means they're not tracking your chakra signature, they must have followed us physically." Midnight assessed their options rapidly. "The other corridors, do any of them look like they might lead to alternative exits?" Momo scanned the directional symbols. "This one contains patterns that could indicate upward movement or surface connection. It's our best option." Before they could move toward the indicated passage, mechanical humanoids similar to those they had fought before emerged from the entrance corridor. Unlike previous models, these appeared streamlined for underground operation, with enhanced sensory apparatus and drilling attachments. Targets located, one announced. Primary objective, retrieve the origin vessel and the Forbidden Archive. They know about the scroll, Midnight realized. Kurogyri must have shared his knowledge with these units before his destruction. Naruto stepped forward, hands already forming a familiar seal. Get to that exit passage. I'll hold them here. We're not separating, Momo objected immediately, her armor systems activating from their compact state. These units are specifically designed for confined space combat. You'll need support. The mechanical humanoids advanced methodically, their movements coordinated for maximum efficiency in the underground environment. The lead unit extended scanning apparatus toward Naruto. Origin energy detected. Beginning capture protocol. Naruto created several shadow clones that immediately engaged the mechanical units, buying time while he, Midnight, and Momo backed toward their escape route. These things keep evolving, Midnight noted as she observed their combat patterns. They're adapting to your shadow clone tactics already. The clones fought with coordinated precision, but the mechanical humanoids quickly identified the originals among the duplicates, focusing their attention on the real targets. One unit deployed what appeared to be a specialized weapon, a device that emitted pulses of energy that disrupted Naruto's clones on contact. Clone disruption technology, Momo observed with concern. They've been studying your abilities specifically. As they reached the entrance to their escape passage, more mechanical units emerged from other corridors, attempting to cut off their retreat. Naruto's expression hardened as he realized they were being strategically cornered. Change of plans, he announced, entering Sage mode. Midnight, can your quirk affect these things at all? Partially, she confirmed. The newer models still incorporate some biological components that respond to my somnambulist effect, but they've clearly been hardened against it compared to earlier versions. I need you to create a diversion with whatever effect you can manage, Naruto instructed. Momo, how sturdy is your armor? It's designed to withstand significant impact, she replied. Why? Instead of answering directly, Naruto formed a Rasengan in each hand, but these were unlike his standard version, compressed tighter and rotating with unusual intensity. When I give the signal, both of you get as close to me as possible, he said, his sage-enhanced eyes tracking the advancing mechanical units. We're going to make our own exit. Understanding his plan, Midnight nodded and moved into position. She released her quirk at maximum output, creating a cloud of pink mist that filled the central chamber. As expected, the mechanical humanoids showed partial susceptibility, their movements becoming less coordinated though not completely disabled. Now! Naruto called. Midnight and Momo pressed close to him as he slammed both Rasengans into the floor beneath them. The specialized versions of his technique drilled through the ancient stone with extraordinary precision, creating a controlled collapse that dropped them to a lower level while destabilizing the floor beneath their pursuers. They fell for several meters before landing in what appeared to be a natural cavern beneath the constructed chambers. Water flowed along one side, suggesting they had reached part of the mountain's natural cave system. Quick thinking, Midnight commented, regaining her balance. Though now we're potentially further from an exit. Momo was already scanning their surroundings with her equipment. Not necessarily. This water flow suggests a connection to the outside. Underground streams often lead to surface outlets. Above them, they could hear the mechanical humanoids beginning to navigate the collapsed section. Their pursuit would only be delayed briefly. Then let's follow the water, Naruto decided. It's our best shot. They moved quickly along the underground stream, the natural cavern occasionally narrowing to passages that required them to wade through knee-deep water. Momo's equipment continued providing illumination, revealing stunning natural formations that had developed undisturbed for centuries. The water's flowing faster, Naruto observed after they had traveled for several minutes. And I think I feel a breeze. Midnight nodded in agreement. Air circulation is increasing. We must be approaching an opening to the outside. The passage widened into another cavern, this one with natural light filtering down through a narrow fissure in the ceiling. The underground stream disappeared into a small opening at the base of the far wall, too small for them to follow. The exit's above us, Momo concluded, examining the fissure. But it's at least 20 meters up, and the walls are too smooth for conventional climbing. Naruto assessed the situation. I can get us up there. Shadow clones can form a ladder, or I could try. He was interrupted by the sound of mechanical movement from the passage they had just traversed. Their pursuers had caught up more quickly than anticipated. No time for elaborate solutions, Midnight decided. What's the fastest way up? Hold on to me, Naruto instructed, forming a quick hand sign. As they complied, he channeled chakra to his feet and began running directly up the vertical cavern wall, carrying both women with enhanced strength. They reached the fissure just as mechanical humanoids entered the cavern below. The opening was narrow but passable, leading to a series of progressively wider cracks in the mountain's outer face. After several tight squeezes, they emerged onto a forested slope far from their original entrance point. We made it, Momo breathed, checking her navigation equipment. We're on the northern face of the mountain, approximately 3 kilometers from the main hiking trails. Naruto scanned their surroundings, still in sage mode. They're still following. We need to keep moving and get this scroll somewhere safe. UA has the most secure facilities available to us, Midnight noted as they began making their way down the slope. And we'll need Nizu and the research team to help analyze what we found anyway. As they navigated the difficult terrain, Momo studied Naruto with thoughtful concern. Are you alright? You've been unusually quiet since we found that illustration of the Ten Tails. Naruto's expression revealed his inner conflict. It's just, a lot to process. If what that scroll suggests is true, then I'm not here by accident. There's some kind of connection between my world and yours that's existed for centuries. And apparently, I'm supposed to play some role in reunifying fractured power, whatever that means. It doesn't necessarily mean what Kurogiri interpreted it to mean, Midnight pointed out. Ancient prophecies and predictions are notoriously subject to misinterpretation. That's true, Momo agreed. The scroll shows a cycle, but cycles can be influenced. Understanding your purpose doesn't mean you're bound to a predetermined outcome. Naruto managed a small smile at their attempts to reassure him. Thanks. It's just weird to think I might have been pulled across dimensions as part of some ancient plan. They continued their descent, eventually reaching more accessible terrain where they could move faster. As the mountain's public areas came into view in the distance, Momo's equipment suddenly emitted a warning tone. Multiple signals approaching, she reported, checking the display. Not mechanical this time, electronic signatures consistent with government special operations equipment. Could be reinforcements, Midnight suggested. I activated our emergency beacon when we escaped the cave. Or it could be someone else, Naruto said cautiously. Kurogiri mentioned allies. They took cover in a dense section of forest, observing as a group of uniformed personnel moved methodically up the slope. Their equipment and formation appeared professional military rather than hero support. That's Captain Sato's Special Powers Containment Division, Midnight recognized, her expression darkening. But why would they be deployed without informing UA? Because they're not here to help us, Naruto concluded grimly. They're here for the same reason as the mechanical hunters, the scroll and me. Momo scanned the approaching team with her equipment. Their communications are encrypted, but they're carrying energy containment technology similar to what Kurogiri used. This isn't a rescue operation. So the government has been compromised, Midnight muttered. Or at least parts of it. We need to avoid capture and get back to UA with what we've found. Naruto considered their options. I could create a diversion with shadow clones, send them in multiple directions to confuse their tracking. Too risky with both mechanical and human pursuers, Momo countered. We need a more comprehensive approach. She began creating something from her arm, a small device with antenna-like projections. This should generate a field that will disrupt both their electronic tracking and any energy detection methods they're using. How long will it last? Midnight asked. About 10 minutes at full power, Momo replied. Enough time to circle around their perimeter and reach the main tourist area of the mountain. In public, with civilians around, they'll be limited in what actions they can take. Naruto nodded in approval. Smart. Public spaces make it harder for them to grab us without causing a scene. Momo activated the device, which emitted a barely perceptible hum. We need to move quickly while the field is active. They executed the plan with practiced efficiency, using the disruption field to slip past the containment team's perimeter. By staying low and moving through the densest sections of forest, they managed to avoid visual detection until they reached the outskirts of Mount Takau's popular tourist area. The contrast was jarring, from tense evasion in the wilderness to suddenly emerging among families, tourists, and casual hikers enjoying the mountain's attractions. They adjusted their appearance as best they could, attempting to blend in despite Momo's high-tech equipment and their generally disheveled state. The cable car station is our best option, Midnight decided, guiding them through the crowds. Fastest way down the mountain and too public for either the mechanical units or Sato's team to attempt anything obvious. They purchased tickets with the emergency funds Midnight carried and joined the line for the next descent. As they waited, Naruto remained vigilant, occasionally closing his eyes to sense for pursuers. Anything? Momo asked quietly. Nothing mechanical nearby, he replied. But there are several people with unusual energy signatures moving through the crowd. Not quirks exactly, but something, augmented. Midnight subtly scanned the gathering tourists. Kurogiri mentioned the Shadow Hand organization. If they've infiltrated government agencies, they may have enhanced operatives as well. The cable car arrived, and they boarded along with several families and a tour group. As the doors were about to close, a man in hiking gear stepped aboard at the last moment, Captain Saito himself, though in civilian clothes rather than his official uniform. His eyes met Midnight's, and the brief flash of recognition confirmed their suspicions. He took a position near the door, one hand casually resting inside his jacket where a weapon was likely concealed. He's alone, Naruto murmured, pretending to admire the view as the cable car began its descent. At least in here. But there will be others waiting at the bottom station, Momo surmised. And he only needs to stall us until they're in position. Midnight considered their limited options. In the confined space of the cable car, with civilians present, her quirk would affect everyone indiscriminately. Naruto couldn't use his more powerful techniques without endangering innocents. And they were literally suspended in air, with nowhere to retreat. Saito made no immediate move, apparently content to wait until they reached the bottom. His patience suggested confidence in whatever reception awaited them. When we reach the station, stay close to the tour group, Midnight instructed quietly. Use them as cover to reach the public transportation area. And if we're separated? Momo asked. Rendezvous at Takashita Street in Harajuku, Midnight decided. Crowded shopping district, easy to disappear in. Naruto nodded slightly, then addressed the more immediate concern. What about him? He's blocking the exit. Leave that to me, Midnight replied with professional confidence. As the cable car approached the bottom station, Saito shifted position, preparing to intercept them. Midnight moved casually toward him, appearing to simply reposition for exiting. When they were mere moments from docking, she accidentally stumbled against him. Oh, I'm so sorry, she apologized with convincing sincerity. The brief contact allowed her to release a controlled dose of her somnambulist quirk directly against his skin, not enough to be visible to others, but sufficient to disorient him momentarily. Sato's eyes widened in surprise as the quirk took effect, his reaction slowing just enough for them to slip past him when the doors opened. They moved quickly with the exiting crowd, using the tour group as planned to shield them from immediate detection. We've got about 30 seconds before he recovers enough to alert his team, Midnight warned as they navigated through the station. They emerged into the busy plaza outside, where tourist buses and taxis created constant movement. Scanning quickly, Midnight spotted what they needed, a departing tour bus that was just closing its doors. There. They sprinted for the bus, Naruto reaching it first and politely but firmly holding the doors open with enhanced strength while Midnight explained some emergency to the driver. Whatever combination of her professional authority and natural charisma she employed worked, the driver allowed them aboard, and the bus departed moments later. Through the windows, they caught glimpses of Saito emerging from the station, speaking urgently into a communication device as he searched the plaza for them. That was too close, Momo breathed as they found seats near the back of the bus. But they'll check transportation routes. This is just a temporary solution. It buys us time, Naruto replied, carefully adjusting his pack where the ancient scroll was secured. And right now, time is what we need most, to understand what we found and what it means. Midnight nodded in agreement. Once we reach the city, we'll switch transportation methods multiple times before heading to the rendezvous point. From there, we can contact UA through secure channels. As the bus wound its way down the mountain roads, Naruto stared out at the passing landscape, his reflection in the window overlaying the forests and valleys beyond. The weight of what they had discovered pressed upon him, not just the mechanical hunters or government conspiracy, but the deeper implications of his purpose in this world. Origin Vessel. Origin Sage. The bridge between worlds. Fractured power made whole again. Whatever ancient cycle had brought him to this dimension, whatever role he was meant to play, one thing was becoming increasingly clear: his arrival wasn't random, and the consequences would affect both his world and this one in ways he was only beginning to comprehend. Beside him, Momo noticed his troubled expression. Without saying anything, she simply placed her hand over his, a small gesture of support amid the uncertainty. Naruto gave her a grateful smile, drawing strength from the reminder that whatever challenges lay ahead, he wouldn't face them alone. As Mount Takao receded in the distance behind them, the bus carried its passengers down toward Tokyo, three figures among many, yet bearing knowledge that might soon reshape the very understanding of heroes, villains, and the power that defined them both. Chapter 3, The Forbidden God Awakens. Takashita Street buzzed with the chaotic energy only Harajuku could produce. Fashion-forward teens, tourists, and locals created a living current of humanity that flowed between trendy shops and food stalls. Perfect camouflage for three people trying to disappear. Naruto, Momo, and Midnight blended into the crowd, having switched transportation 5 times since escaping Mount Takao. They'd abandoned the tour bus after 3 stops, taken a local train, transferred to the subway, walked through a department store, and finally caught a taxi to drop them 2 blocks from their destination. No signs of pursuit for the last 20 minutes, Momo reported quietly, her armor's sensors now concealed beneath a hastily purchased oversized hoodie. But satellite coverage means they could reacquire us anytime. Naruto nodded, his senses extended beyond normal perception. The strange scroll in his backpack seemed to pulse against his chakra network, like it was somehow alive. We need somewhere to examine the scroll properly, Midnight said, casually scanning the bustling street. Somewhere not connected to UA or any of our known locations. Momo suddenly paused at a storefront, her eyes lighting up with inspiration. I have an idea. She led them into a manga cafe, one of Tokyo's ubiquitous establishments where customers rented private booths with computer access. The front desk clerk barely glanced up as Momo paid cash for a deluxe room. Perfect, Naruto grinned as they settled into the spacious booth with privacy screens. Nobody questions anything in places like this. And the building's electronic interference will make it harder for them to detect any energy signatures, Momo added, already creating specialized equipment from her palm. I can establish a secure connection to UA from here. Midnight secured the booth door while Naruto carefully removed the ancient scroll from his pack, placing it on the table between them. Even in the cafe's artificial lighting, the scrolls seemed to possess an inner luminescence, the symbols shifting subtly as if alive. It's reacting to this environment, Naruto observed, watching the patterns change. Almost like it's trying to communicate. Momo finished creating a small device that projected a holographic display. This should help us translate portions of the text. I've been compiling reference data from all the symbols we've encountered. The device scanned sections of the scroll, comparing patterns and suggesting potential meanings. Slowly, fragments began to resolve into comprehensible text. The cycle of fractured power, Momo read from the first translated section. When the original force divided itself across the boundary between realms, the balance was disrupted. Midnight leaned forward, studying the emerging translation. It's describing some kind of primordial energy that split into two distinct forms, one that became chakra in your world, and one that eventually evolved into quirks in ours. But why? Naruto questioned, tracing the ancient symbols with his finger. Why would this power split itself in the first place? As if responding to his question, the scroll illuminated more brightly where he touched it. The symbols rearranged themselves, flowing like liquid ink to form new patterns. It's responding directly to you, Momo gasped, adjusting her scanner. The scroll isn't just a record, it's some kind of interactive artifact. More text resolved through the translation matrix, the original force grew too powerful in its unified state. Consciousness emerged within the power, and with consciousness came ambition. To prevent catastrophe, the first sage divided the power across dimensional boundaries, establishing the cycle of renewal. The first sage. Naruto's eyes widened. In my world, the Sage of Six Paths was the first to harness chakra and share it with humanity. And here, there are legends about the first quirk user, Midnight added. Stories about someone who could wield multiple abilities when everyone else had just one. The scroll continued reconfiguring, revealing an illustration of a figure simultaneously existing in two worlds, connected by flowing energy. The origin sage stands at the crossroads of worlds when the cycle reaches completion, Momo translated. Neither villain nor hero, but balance incarnate. When fractured power threatens to collapse into chaos or tyranny, the vessel appears to restore harmony. Naruto stared at the illustration, which now looked unmistakably like him in sage mode. So I'm not the first. This has happened before, someone from my world coming here to, what? Fix something. According to this, Midnight said, reading further translations, the cycle occurs approximately every 2 centuries. The power in both worlds gradually becomes unbalanced over time. In your world, that manifested as increasingly powerful chakra users and tailed beasts. And in ours, Momo continued, it's manifested as increasingly extreme quirks, growing more powerful and dangerous with each generation. Naruto leaned back, processing these revelations. So when I was performing that seal to contain the 10 tails, I wasn't just pulled here randomly. The cycle was reaching its completion point in both worlds simultaneously. More text appeared on their translation display, the origin sage carries the seed of both worlds' power within them. Only by embracing the forbidden god aspect can the balance be restored. But beware, the dark origin will arise to prevent the rebalancing. Dark origin. Midnight frowned. Another player we haven't encountered yet. Before they could speculate further, Momo's communication device activated, displaying Principal Nizu's concerned face. Ah, there you are, the principal said, his usual calm demeanor slightly strained. We've been quite worried. Are you secure? Relatively, Midnight confirmed. But we've confirmed government involvement with whatever faction Kurogyri represented. Captain Sato's team attempted to intercept us at Mount Takao. That aligns with troubling developments here, Nizu replied. Several high-ranking Hero Commission officials have been acting strangely, implementing new protocols regarding Uzumaki-san. And there's been unusual activity at research sites across Japan, energy surges similar to what we detected at the mechanical foothold. We found something, sir, Momo reported, angling the camera to show the scroll. An ancient artifact that seems to explain Uzumaki-san's appearance in our world. It describes a cycle of power imbalance between dimensions that requires periodic correction. Naruto leaned into frame. Apparently I'm something called the origin sage, someone who shows up every couple centuries to fix this imbalance between our worlds. But there's also something called the dark origin, that wants to stop that from happening. Nizu's whiskers twitched with interest. Fascinating. This would explain why multiple factions have shown interest in you since your arrival. If this scroll contains the knowledge of such a cycle, it would be invaluable to anyone seeking to manipulate the power dynamics of our world. We need to get back to UA, Midnight stated. But conventional routes are likely being watched. Indeed, Nizu agreed. Which is why I've arranged alternative transportation. There's an old support hero facility in Shibuya, approximately 1 kilometer from your current location. Proceed there in 30 minutes. Look for the vintage clock repair shop. The communication ended, leaving them to prepare for their next move. We should translate as much as possible before we leave, Momo suggested, adjusting her scanner to capture more of the scroll's contents. As they worked, the scroll continued its strange, responsive behavior, revealing different information depending on who touched it and what questions they asked. When Naruto inquired about the forbidden god aspect mentioned earlier, an entirely new section illuminated. The vessel contains multitudes, Momo translated carefully. Human form limits the origin power by design, preventing catastrophic release. To complete the rebalancing, the vessel must transcend mortal limitations temporarily, becoming the conduit through which all fractured power flows. That sounds intense, Naruto commented, remembering how it felt when he had accessed the Nine Tails Chakra mode or Six Paths Sage mode in the past. Like accessing a power that could burn you up from the inside. There's more, Momo continued reading. The transformation requires perfect harmony between the vessel's human heart and the origin power they contain. Without balance, the power consumes the vessel, creating the very catastrophe the cycle exists to prevent. Midnight studied Naruto thoughtfully. That explains why you specifically were chosen as this cycle's vessel. Your experience as a Jinchuriki, containing immense power while maintaining your humanity, makes you uniquely qualified. The scroll shifted again, responding to their conversation. A new illustration formed, showing a dark mirror of the origin sage, a figure with similar markings but distorted, chaotic energy radiating outward destructively. The dark origin arises from the same source, Momo translated, her voice growing concerned. Born of the imbalance, it seeks not correction but domination, to harness all fractured power under a single will. It manifests as the cycle nears completion, drawn to the vessel like shadow to light. So there's another player coming, Naruto concluded grimly. Someone or something that wants the same power I'm supposedly here to rebalance, but for different reasons. A sudden alert from Momo's equipment interrupted them. Energy surge detected, she reported, checking the readings. Massive disturbance approximately 20 kilometers away, near Tokyo Bay. Midnight accessed news feeds on the booth's computer. Breaking reports of unexplained phenomena at the harbor. Witnesses describing reality distortions and strange creatures emerging from the water. Naruto's expression hardened. Looks like the dark origin isn't wasting any time. The vintage clock shop in Shibuya looked genuinely abandoned, with dust-covered windows and a permanent, closed, sign. Only the slightest irregularities in the security camera positioning suggested it might be more than it appeared. As they approached, a side door opened automatically, revealing a narrow corridor that led to a service elevator. Inside, Principal Nizu himself waited, along with Power Loader from the UA support department. You made good time, Nizu greeted them. We must proceed quickly. The situation at Tokyo Bay is escalating beyond conventional hero response capabilities. The elevator descended rapidly, opening into what appeared to be a fully equipped underground facility, part workshop, part command center, part armory. One of All Might's early support bases, Power Loader explained, noting their surprised expressions. Established before UA became his primary operation center. Few people remember it exists. Momo immediately connected her equipment to the facility's systems, transferring the scroll data they had collected. On the main screens, live footage showed the chaos unfolding at Tokyo Bay, swirling vortices of dark energy erupting from the water, strange mechanical-organic hybrid creatures emerging to attack first responders. Current hero teams are struggling to contain the situation, Nizu explained. These entities don't respond to conventional quirk-based attacks the way normal villains would. They're similar to the mechanical hunters that targeted me, Naruto observed, studying the footage. But more, biological. Like they're evolving beyond pure machinery. Power Loader nodded grimly. Analysis suggests they're adapting to quirk energy specifically, developing immunities to the most common hero attack types with each engagement. Tactically intelligent, Midnight noted. Forcing heroes to exhaust their standard approaches, then capitalizing on their confusion when those approaches fail. Momo had moved to a workstation, already creating components with her quirk while referencing facility equipment. I can modify the countermeasures we developed before, but we'll need something more comprehensive for this scale of threat. Naruto's attention remained fixed on the central disturbance, a massive whirlpool of energy at the harbor's center that seemed to be growing larger by the minute. Something about its frequency resonated with his chakra, creating an uncomfortable sensation like recognition. That's where it's coming from, he said quietly. The dark origin. I can feel it. Feel it? Nizu questioned. It's like looking in a distorted mirror, Naruto tried to explain. Similar energy signature to my own, but, twisted. Corrupted somehow. The central display suddenly switched to a new feed, a government press conference where officials were addressing the situation. Among them stood Captain Saito, his expression severe as he detailed emergency containment protocols. And we have reason to believe this incident is connected to the interdimensional entity that appeared 3 weeks ago, Saito was saying. All citizens are advised to report any sightings of this individual, who should be considered extremely dangerous. An image of Naruto appeared on screen behind him, a still from security footage during his downtown battle. Great, Naruto sighed. Now I'm officially a villain. This complicates our response options, Nizu acknowledged. But perhaps presents an opportunity as well. While official attention focuses on locating you, we can prepare a more strategic intervention. Power Loader approached with a small device, which he handed to Naruto. This might help. Developed from Yaoyorozu's designs, it should mask your chakra signature more comprehensively than her prototype version. Naruto activated the device, feeling its effect immediately, a more sophisticated dampening field that didn't just muffle his chakra but actively redirected its external emanations. Thanks, he said appreciatively. Though if I'm going to face whatever's causing that disturbance, I'll eventually need my full power. One problem at a time, Midnight suggested. First, we need a better understanding of what we're facing. Momo had connected her translation device to the facility's more powerful processors, accelerating their analysis of the scroll. New sections were resolving on the screens, including more detailed information about the dark origin. When the cycle nears completion, she read, the dark origin manifests through a suitable vessel from the world opposite the origin sage. A being who mirrors the sage's potential but embraces dominance rather than balance. Someone from this world, Naruto realized. Someone with a quirk that resonates with origin energy. Further translation appeared, the dark vessel seeks to interrupt the rebalancing by claiming the origin power for itself, becoming a god among mortals. If successful, both worlds face collapse as the power concentrates in a single point, unable to flow naturally between dimensions. That explains the government involvement, Midnight concluded. If certain officials discovered this cycle was approaching completion, they might have sought to control the outcome, to harness the power for their own purposes rather than allow natural rebalancing. The facility shook suddenly, dust falling from the ceiling as tremors radiated from the harbor disturbance miles away. On the monitors, the situation had deteriorated further. The energy vortex had expanded dramatically, engulfing portions of the harbor infrastructure and repelling hero teams attempting to contain it. Whatever's emerging isn't waiting for us to finish our research, Power Loader noted grimly. Naruto stood, decision made. I need to get there. If I'm supposedly the counterbalance to whatever that is, standing back isn't an option. Not alone, Momo stated firmly, gathering equipment she'd been preparing. I've modified my armor system specifically to interact with your chakra frequency. We'll be more effective together. I'll coordinate with whatever pro-heroes haven't been compromised, Midnight added. We'll need a perimeter to keep civilians clear and deal with those hybrid creatures. Nizu considered their improvised plan with his characteristic analytical precision. The timing is far from ideal, but circumstances leave little choice. If the translations are correct, this confrontation was inevitable. The Dark Origin would have found you eventually, Uzumaki-san. On the monitors, a new development, the central vortex was coalescing into a more defined shape, humanoid but massive, easily 20 meters tall. Energy patterns reminiscent of both mechanical technology and biological systems flowed across its surface. It's taking form, Naruto observed tensely. As if hearing his words across the miles, the towering figure turned toward the camera. Its face was partially formed, features still shifting between different possible configurations before settling on one that sent chills through everyone watching. It looked like Naruto, or rather, a corrupted, distorted version of him. The same facial structure but with mechanical components integrated into organic tissue, eyes glowing with malevolent energy, and twisted versions of the sage markings around them. What the hell? Naruto breathed, staring at the nightmarish reflection of himself. The Dark Origin mirrors the vessel, Momo quoted from the scroll translations. Drawing on the same primordial template but inverting its purpose. The creature spoke, its voice reverberating unnaturally through the harbor's surveillance systems. Origin Sage. I feel your presence. Come face your reflection. Monitors throughout the facility flickered as the transmission was hijacked, the creature's distorted face appearing on every screen simultaneously. I am ENMU, it announced. The Dark Vessel. The true inheritor of Origin power. The transmission cut abruptly, returning to chaotic footage of the harbor situation. Emergency services were evacuating civilians from surrounding districts as the hybrid creatures spread further into the city. We're out of time, Midnight stated, already moving toward the facility's equipment lockers. We need to deploy immediately. Power Loader activated an internal communication system. All support units, initiate Protocol Omega. Prepare transport for immediate deployment. Naruto turned to Momo, who was making final adjustments to her armor. Are you sure about this? That thing out there, it's not like the mechanical hunters we fought before. I'm certain, she replied without hesitation, her usually proper demeanor replaced by resolute determination. My entire life at UA has been training for moments when people need protection. This is exactly where I should be. Something in her unwavering confidence struck Naruto deeply, a reminder of his own ninja way and the will of fire he'd inherited in his world. He smiled, genuine appreciation warming his expression. Then let's show this Dark Origin what happens when it messes with our worlds. Tokyo Bay had transformed into a landscape from apocalyptic fiction. The massive figure of Enmu towered over the harbor, dark energy radiating from his form in pulsing waves that distorted reality wherever they touched. Buildings warped, materials transmuted, and gravity itself seemed to fluctuate in expanding circles around him. Pro-heroes maintained a perimeter approximately 1 kilometer from the epicenter, fighting a desperate holding action against the hybrid creatures that continued emerging from the contaminated water. Despite their best efforts, the defense line was gradually being pushed back. Civilian evacuation is 82% complete in the affected zones, reported a hero coordinator through the communication system. But we're losing ground against these things. Conventional quirks aren't having consistent effects. From their approach vector in a specialized UA transport vehicle, Naruto, and the response team observed the deteriorating situation. Momo sat beside him, fully equipped in her enhanced armor system. Midnight coordinated with other pro-heroes from the command section, while Power Loader managed their technical support. Those creatures are different from the mechanical hunters, Momo noted, analyzing sensor data. They contain elements of Kurogyri's technology but integrated with biological material that appears to be actively evolving. They're manifestations of the Dark Origin's power, Naruto suggested, recalling the scroll's descriptions. Not just tools or weapons, but extensions of Enmu himself. The transport approached the perimeter where Eraserhead was coordinating a defensive position with several UA teachers and professional heroes. His capture weapon lashed out continuously, restraining hybrid creatures while other heroes delivered targeted strikes to their vulnerable points. "About time you showed up," he greeted them as they disembarked, his perpetually tired eyes even more exhausted than usual. "The situation's deteriorating by the minute. These things adapt to whatever we throw at them." "What about evacuations?" Midnight asked immediately. "Ongoing," Eraserhead replied grimly. "But that central entity, Enmu, it's not just standing there anymore. It started converting parts of the harbor into something else. Materials are transforming into technology we don't recognize." Naruto surveyed the chaotic battlefield, his senses extending beyond normal perception. "He's building something, some kind of structure around himself. I can feel the energy patterns forming a specific configuration." "A weapon?" Power Loader questioned. "No," Naruto shook his head. "More like a conduit. He's creating something to channel and amplify the energy he's gathering." Momo's armor systems completed their analysis of the harbor transformation. "It's a dimensional resonance structure, similar in principle to what we found beneath Mount Takao, but inverted. Instead of facilitating balance between dimensions, this would force them into catastrophic alignment. Forcing both worlds to occupy the same space," Naruto realized. "That would be apocalyptic," Eraserhead finished bluntly. "So what's the plan?" Naruto's expression hardened with resolve. "I need to get close enough to engage Enmu directly. According to the scroll, as the Origin Sage, I'm the only one who can counterbalance his power. We'll create an opening," Midnight decided. "A coordinated push through their defensive line straight to the harbor center. But you'll need support to reach the target." "I'm going with him," Momo stated, her tone brooking no argument. "My equipment is specifically calibrated to interact with his chakra and counteract the reality distortions Enmu is generating." Eraserhead looked like he wanted to object to a student being part of such a dangerous operation, but the gravity of the situation overrode standard protocols. "Fine. The rest of us will handle the perimeter creatures and keep civilian casualties to a minimum." Power Loader distributed specialized communication devices. These should maintain connection even through the energy disruption fields. "Yaoyorozu, your armor's shielding has been reinforced based on the data you collected, but it has limitations. Sustained exposure to the reality distortions will eventually overwhelm the protection." Naruto created several shadow clones, each nodding in understanding of their role. "My clones will support different hero teams, helping identify the creature's weaknesses as they adapt." With the plan established, they moved into position. Professional heroes formed strike teams, each accompanied by one of Naruto's shadow clones. Momo completed final calibrations on her armor, the systems humming with optimized energy. Before they launched their assault, Midnight pulled Naruto aside briefly. The scroll mentioned that embracing the forbidden god aspect was necessary for rebalancing. "Do you understand what that means?" Naruto's expression turned serious. "I think so. In my world, I access different forms of power, Ninetales chakra mode, Six Paths Sage mode. This feels similar but more fundamental. Like I need to fully connect with whatever this origin energy actually is." "And the risks?" He met her concerned gaze directly. "The scroll warned that without maintaining balance between the power and my humanity, I could be consumed by it, becomes something like Enmu, I guess. A power that forgets its purpose. Midnight studied him intently, her professional assessment giving way to something more personal. Just, come back as yourself, alright? This world could use more Naruto Uzumaki, not less. The unexpected sentiment brought a genuine smile to his face. I promise. I've had practice keeping my humanity while using powers that could consume me. This won't be different. With a final nod of acknowledgement, they rejoined the others as the coordinated assault began. Hero teams advanced simultaneously along 3 vectors, creating a diversionary pattern that divided the hybrid creature's attention. Naruto's shadow clones provided tactical support, their sage-enhanced perception identifying vulnerabilities faster than conventional analysis. Naruto and Momo took advantage of the chaos to advance along a 4th, less defended path, moving rapidly through damaged infrastructure toward the harbor center. As they approached, the reality distortions intensified, the very air becoming thick and resistant. The armor's holding, Momo reported, checking systems as they progressed. But these distortions are getting stronger. Around them, physics behaved unpredictably. Water flowed upward in defiance of gravity. Metal twisted into organic shapes that pulsed with unnatural life. The boundary between solid matter and energy blurred, creating hazardous zones where molecular cohesion broke down entirely. Stay close to me, Naruto instructed, entering Sage mode to better navigate the chaotic environment. Natural energy helped stabilize these distortions somewhat. They pressed forward, encountering increasingly bizarre manifestations of Enmu's power. Hybrid creatures more evolved than those at the perimeter emerged to intercept them, beings that seemed to exist partially in another dimension, their forms phasing in and out of conventional reality. Naruto engaged them directly, his sage-enhanced abilities proving effective against entities that defied normal physics. Rasengan variants disrupted their unstable forms, while nature-transformed chakra techniques countered their reality-warping effects. Momo provided tactical support, her creation Quirk operating at unprecedented efficiency thanks to her training with Naruto. She generated specialized countermeasures on the fly, analyzing each new adaptation and producing appropriate responses. They're not just adapting randomly, she observed after dispatching a particularly challenging entity. There's intelligence behind the evolution, a directed purpose. They're buying time, Naruto realized, sensing the increasing energy concentration ahead. Enmu's structure is nearing completion. They finally reached the inner harbor, where Enmu's true work became visible. The massive entity stood at the center of an intricate geometric construction, part technology, part transmuted matter, all pulsing with dark energy that mirrored corrupted chakra. The structure extended both physically into the harbor and dimensionally into space that human perception struggled to process. Origin Sage, Enmu's voice resonated through the distorted air. You've arrived to witness ascension. The creature turned its attention fully toward them, its distorted features forming a mockery of a smile. This close, the resemblance to Naruto was even more disturbing, like looking at a version of himself corrupted by power and ambition. You're making a mistake, Naruto called out, standing firm despite the oppressive energy radiating from Enmu. This isn't ascension, it's destruction. You'll collapse both worlds. Incorrect, Enmu replied, its voice fluctuating between mechanical precision and organic emotion. The prophecy was misinterpreted. Rebalancing doesn't require 2 separate worlds, it requires unification under single consciousness. The structure surrounding Enmu pulsed with increasing intensity, reality itself bending further around its focal points. Behind them, the battle at the perimeter continued, hero teams fighting desperately to contain the spreading chaos. He believes he's fulfilling the prophecy, Momo realized, her armor system struggling to compensate for the intensifying distortions. Just with a different interpretation of balance. Naruto stepped forward, chakra manifesting visibly around him as he prepared to engage. Who are you? Who were you before becoming this? Enmu's form shifted slightly, parts reconfiguring as if accessing different aspects of itself. I was many. Fragments collected across time. The government researcher who discovered the prophecy. The child born with the resonant quirk. The vessel prepared through generations of selective quirk breeding. Kurogiri mentioned the Shadow Hand organization, Momo recalled. They must have been preparing for this cycle's completion for decades, possibly centuries. But preparation was insufficient, Enmu continued, its voice gaining strange harmonics. Until you arrived, Origin Sage. Your presence catalyzed the final transformation. Your energy signature provided the template. That's why the mechanical hunters were collecting my chakra, Naruto understood. Not just as a power source, as a pattern for Enmu's manifestation. Correct. Now the unification proceeds. Both worlds will merge under my guidance. All fractured power will become one. The structure activated fully, energy conduits illuminating in sequence as they channeled power toward Enmu's core. Above the harbor, the sky itself began to distort, a massive circular aberration forming like a window between dimensions. Through this distortion, glimpses of another world flashed momentarily visible. That's my world, Naruto breathed, recognizing fragments of landscapes from the elemental nations. He's actually forcing the dimensions to overlap. Momo's armor registered critical warnings as reality fluctuations intensified. We need to disrupt that structure. My analysis suggests it has 7 primary nodes channeling energy to the central hub. Can you create something to counteract the nodes? Naruto asked, already forming a strategy. Yes, but I'll need time and proximity to each node, she replied, her creation quirk already generating components. And someone needs to keep Enmu distracted. Naruto nodded grimly. That would be me. Without further discussion, they split up, Momo moving toward the nearest energy node while Naruto advanced directly toward Enmu. As he approached, Naruto channeled more chakra, entering a heightened state of sage mode that incorporated aspects of his tailed beast power. You know this won't work, Naruto called out to Enmu. The scroll was clear, balance requires harmony, not domination. You're trying to force something that can't be forced. Philosophical disagreement is irrelevant, Enmu responded, portions of its massive form reconfiguring into offensive configurations. The process has begun. You cannot stop unification now. Watch me, Naruto challenged, creating dozens of shadow clones that scattered in different attack formations. Enmu responded with devastating efficiency, manifesting weapons that operated on principles beyond conventional physics. Beams of concentrated energy that erased matter from existence. Gravity distortions that crushed clones instantly. Temporal disruptions that caught others in loops of repeated destruction. Yet for each clone destroyed, Naruto created more, each providing valuable tactical information as their experiences returned to him. He adapted rapidly, his fighting style evolving to counter Enmu's increasingly exotic attacks. Meanwhile, Momo reached the first energy node, a towering structure of transmuted harbor materials that pulsed with malevolent purpose. Her armor's analysis systems identified the operational frequency, allowing her to create a precisely calibrated disruption device. First node targeted, she reported through their communication link. Deploying countermeasure now. The device activated, interfering with the node's energy pattern. The effect was immediate, a visible disruption rippled through Enmu's structure, causing momentary instability in the dimensional distortion above. Interference detected, Enmu announced, dividing its attention. Deploying sentinels. From its massive form, smaller entities detached, purpose-built hunters that moved with frightening speed toward Momo's position. Before they could reach her, several of Naruto's clones intercepted, engaging the sentinels in close combat while she moved toward the second node. The battle escalated as Naruto pressed his attack against Enmu directly. Drawing on deeper reserves of chakra, he manifested more advanced techniques, Raisin Shuriken variants that disrupted Enmu's energy patterns, Sage-enhanced sealing techniques that temporarily immobilized portions of the massive entity. You fight impressively, Origin Sage, Enmu acknowledged. But futilely. Each moment the dimensional convergence progresses. Soon, critical threshold will be reached. The distortion above the harbor expanded further, now nearly a kilometer in diameter. Through it, larger sections of the other dimension became visible, mountains, forests, and what looked like distant village structures from the elemental nations. Across the battlefield, hero teams continued their desperate defense of the perimeter, now aided by an unexpected development. As the dimensions began overlapping, shinobi from Naruto's world started appearing, disoriented but quickly adapting to the chaotic situation. Second node disrupted, Momo reported, already moving toward her next target. But the countermeasures are only creating temporary interference. The structure is self-repairing. Naruto engaged Enmu with increasing intensity, pushing his abilities to their limits. Yet despite his efforts, the dark vessel continued channeling power into the dimensional convergence, the process accelerating towards some critical point. "You don't understand what you're doing," Naruto shouted as he narrowly evaded a reality-warping attack that liquefied the harbor structure beneath him. "This isn't unification, it's annihilation. Both worlds will collapse if they're forced together unnaturally." "Incorrect," Enmu insisted. "Worlds will merge. Life will continue under new parameters. Evolution will advance. I will guide." The fight continued as Momo systematically targeted each energy node, her countermeasures creating cascading disruptions throughout Enmu's structure. By the fourth node, the combined effect was significant. Visible instabilities appeared in Enmu's form, portions flickering between states of matter as control wavered. Yet the dimensional convergence continued expanding, the boundary between worlds thinning dangerously. Strange atmospheric effects manifested around the edges, lightning without storms, gravity fluctuations that sent objects floating skyward, spontaneous transmutation of materials into their elemental components. "We're running out of time," Momo reported urgently after disabling the fifth node. "The convergence has reached 78% of critical threshold according to my calculations. Once it crosses 85%, the process becomes self-sustaining." Naruto knew the moment had come. What the scroll had described as the forbidden god aspect would be necessary to counter Enmu's power directly. But embracing that aspect meant opening himself fully to the origin energy, becoming something beyond human temporarily, with all the risks that entailed. "I need to access the full origin power," he told Momo through their communication link. "The scroll mentioned a transformation that would let me counter the dark origin directly." "The risk factor is extreme," she responded, concern evident despite her professional tone. "The scroll warned about losing yourself to that power." "No choice now," Naruto replied, determination hardening his voice. "Get clear of the central structure. Whatever happens next, it's going to get intense." Before she could respond, Enmu sensed Naruto's intentions. The massive entity focused its full attention on him, reality-warping attacks intensifying as it sought to prevent what was coming. "The forbidden aspect will destroy you," Enmu warned, its voice resonating with something almost like concern. "Your human consciousness cannot contain it. Surrender instead, join the unification willingly. Preserve your awareness within the new whole." "That's not my ninja way," Naruto replied simply, centering himself amid the chaos. Drawing on everything he had learned about chakra control throughout his life, from his earliest struggles with basic jutsu to the mastery of sage mode and tailed beast power, Naruto reached deeper within himself, seeking the connection to something more fundamental than even those energies. There, at his core, he found it, a presence that had always been part of him but separate from both his human consciousness and the Nine-Tails power. The origin energy, the primordial force from which all other powers in both worlds had derived. As he made contact with this energy, understanding flooded through him, memories not his own, knowledge of cycles completed across millennia, the true nature of the balance between worlds. This wasn't just power, it was consciousness of a different order, the awareness of the original force itself, temporarily accessible through the vessel it had chosen. "I see now," Naruto whispered, his voice carrying despite the chaotic battlefield. "This isn't the first time. It won't be the last. The cycle continues because it must." Energy began radiating from him, Not the blue of chakra or the orange of sage energy, but something more fundamental. A golden luminescence that seemed to exist simultaneously in multiple planes of reality, stabilizing the distorted space around him. Momo watched from her position at the sixth node, her armor sensors overwhelmed by the readings. Incredible, she breathed. He's not just channeling the energy, he's harmonizing with it. The transformation progressed rapidly now, Naruto's form becoming something both more and less than human. His body incorporated the golden energy, features shifting to include aspects reminiscent of ancient depictions of the Sage of Six Paths but with elements unique to himself, the essence of Naruto Uzumaki preserved within the greater power. Enmu recognized the threat immediately, directing its full offensive capability against Naruto. Forbidden aspect activation detected. Convergence priority increased. Deploying maximum countermeasures. The attacks that followed defied conventional understanding of physics, weapons that targeted not just physical form but consciousness itself, attempts to disrupt the connection between Naruto's human identity and the origin power he was accessing. Yet where such attacks might have succeeded moments earlier, they now encountered a different kind of resistance. The transformed Naruto existed partially outside normal dimensional constraints, his awareness expanded to perceive both worlds simultaneously and the artificial convergence threatening them both. You misunderstood the purpose, Naruto's voice resonated with harmonics that carried meaning beyond words. Balance isn't unification under single control. It's harmony between separate but connected existences. He advanced toward Enmu, the golden energy surrounding him creating a path of stabilized reality through the chaos. Where he passed, distortions corrected themselves, matter returned to natural laws, and the boundary between dimensions firmed. Incorrect, Enmu insisted, though with less certainty than before. Singularity is optimal. Separation creates conflict. Unity creates peace. Unity without diversity isn't peace, Naruto countered, continuing his advance. It's stagnation. Both worlds need their independence to evolve naturally, with periodic rebalancing, not forced merger. Momo completed her sabotage of the sixth node, the cumulative effect creating significant disruption throughout Enmu's structure. Only the central hub remained fully operational, channeling enough power to maintain the dimensional convergence despite the damaged network. Final node targeted, she reported, creating her most complex countermeasure yet. But Enmu's core is heavily shielded. My devices can't penetrate the defensive layers. They don't need to, Naruto replied, his transformed consciousness perceiving possibilities beyond normal strategy. The countermeasures have created instability in the convergence pattern. Now I can access the flow directly. He reached the base of Enmu's central structure, the massive entity towering above him despite its increasingly unstable form. Parts of Enmu flickered between states, the careful balance of technology and biology disrupted by Momo's systematic attacks on the support nodes. It is too late, Enmu declared, though its voice now contained distinct harmonics of doubt. Convergence has reached critical momentum. Cannot be reversed. Not reversed, Naruto corrected, raising his hands toward the dimensional distortion above. Rebalanced. The golden energy surrounding him expanded upward in a perfect column, intersecting with the convergence field. Where they met, something remarkable happened. Instead of fighting against the distortion, Naruto's power began redirecting it, reshaping the chaotic merger into something more controlled. The prophecy was right all along, Momo realized, watching from her position near the central hub. He's not preventing the convergence entirely, he's guiding it into a controlled rebalancing instead of a catastrophic collision. Enmu recognized the threat to its plan too late. The massive entity directed all remaining power against Naruto, but the attacks passed harmlessly through his transformed state or were absorbed into the rebalancing process. Your human consciousness cannot maintain the forbidden aspect, Enmu warned, a note of desperation entering its voice. The origin power will consume you. You will become as I am, power without humanity. For a moment, Naruto felt the truth in these words. The expanded awareness, the connection to forces beyond human comprehension, it would be easy to lose himself in the vastness of it, to become something beyond human permanently. But anchoring him to his humanity were the connections he had formed in this world, Momo's brilliant determination, Midnight's perceptive guidance, the students and teachers of UA, who had accepted him despite his strangeness. And deeper still, the connections to his own world, the promises he had made, the people waiting for him, the ninja way he had always followed. "You're wrong," Naruto replied, certainty filling him. "Humanity isn't weakness, it's the whole point. Without it, power has no purpose, no direction." He completed the connection to the convergence field, his transformed consciousness extending into the boundary between dimensions. Unlike Enmu's forced collision, Naruto's approach worked with the natural resonance between worlds, finding the harmonic frequency where energy could flow appropriately without destructive interference. The effect spread outward from the harbor in concentric waves of golden light. Where they passed, reality stabilized. The hybrid creatures fighting at the perimeter began to dissolve, their unstable existence unable to persist as natural laws reasserted themselves. Enmu's massive form convulsed as the rebalancing energy reached its structure. No. The unification must proceed as designed. I have calculated optimal outcome. Some things can't be calculated, Naruto replied simply. They have to be felt. With a final surge of power, he completed the rebalancing process. The dimensional distortion above the harbor didn't close entirely, instead, it transformed into something more stable, a controlled connection point between worlds rather than a catastrophic merger. Enmu's form began to disintegrate, the dark origin energy that had sustained it being drawn into the rebalancing flow. Yet as it collapsed, something separated from the massive entity, a human figure, falling from the dissolving structure toward the water below. Naruto moved with impossible speed, catching the figure before it struck the surface. It was a young man, unconscious but alive, the original human vessel that Enmu had built itself around before expanding into its monstrous form. As the last of Enmu's structure dissolved into pure energy and was channeled into the rebalancing process, Naruto felt the transformation reaching its natural conclusion. The expanded awareness began to recede, his consciousness returning to its human parameters while retaining memory of what he had experienced. The golden energy surrounding him gradually faded, his appearance returning to normal as he descended to one of the few intact sections of harbor, still carrying the unconscious vessel. Momo reached him first, her armor damaged but functional after the intense energy fluctuations. "Naruto. Are you, still you?" He looked up at her with his normal blue eyes, tired but clear. "Yeah. Told you I'd come back as myself." The relief in her expression was immediate and profound. Without hesitation, she threw her arms around him in an embrace that broke through her usual composed demeanor. "I thought we were going to lose you to that power." "For a minute there, so did I," he admitted, returning the embrace with his free arm while carefully setting down Enmu's human vessel. It was intense. Like seeing everything at once, from every possible angle. Midnight arrived with a medical team, immediately checking on both Naruto and the unconscious young man. "The dimensional disturbance is stabilizing," she reported. "Whatever you did, it worked. Reality is reasserting normal parameters throughout the affected zone." "Not exactly normal," Naruto corrected, looking up at what remained of the convergence. "I couldn't completely separate the worlds again, they were too far into the merger process. But I was able to stabilize the connection, make it controlled instead of catastrophic." Above the harbor, what had been a chaotic distortion had transformed into something like a shimmering curtain of energy, still visible but no longer expanding or distorting reality around it. Through this stabilized portal, both worlds remained connected, but as distinct entities rather than a forced amalgamation. "A permanent connection between dimensions?" Momo questioned, her scientific curiosity already analyzing the implications. "Not permanent, but stable," Naruto explained, his understanding of what he had done still crystallizing from the expanded awareness he had briefly accessed. The natural cycle of rebalancing that the scroll described, it always included a period of connection between worlds. That's how energy transfers naturally between dimensions to maintain balance. Eraserhead arrived, looking even more exhausted than usual after the extended battle. The hybrid creatures have completely dissolved. Civilian casualties were thankfully minimal thanks to the evacuation efforts. He surveyed the devastated harbor, the stabilized dimensional portal, and the unconscious vessel that had housed Enmu's consciousness. So, crisis averted? Or do we have a permanent interdimensional situation to deal with now? Both, I think, Naruto replied with a tired smile. The immediate threat is over. Enmu's gone. But the connection between worlds will remain for a while, it's part of the natural cycle. Eventually, it'll close on its own as the rebalancing completes. And how long is a while in cosmic terms? Midnight asked Riley. Months, maybe a year, Naruto estimated, based on the knowledge that had temporarily flowed through him. Long enough for proper exchange between worlds, short enough to prevent permanent disruption to either reality. As they spoke, more figures were approaching across the damaged harbor, pro-heroes returning from the perimeter battle, along with something unexpected, several shinobi from Naruto's world who had crossed through the dimensional connection during the convergence. Among them, Naruto recognized familiar faces, Kakashi, Sakura, and others who must have been investigating his disappearance when the dimensions began to overlap. Naruto! Sakura called out, running ahead of the others. We've been searching for you for weeks. When the dimensional distortion appeared, we realized it might be connected to your disappearance. The reunion was emotional but brief, as both sides quickly focused on the practical situation at hand. Kakashi, ever the tactical thinker, immediately grasped the implications of the stabilized connection between worlds. So this portal will remain open temporarily, he summarized after Naruto explained what had happened. Allowing limited travel and communication between our dimensions until the natural rebalancing completes. That's right, Naruto confirmed. It's actually how the cycle is supposed to work, controlled exchange rather than complete separation or catastrophic merger. In the days that followed, the situation gradually stabilized further. The unconscious vessel recovered in UA's medical facility, revealed to be a government researcher named Dr. Hisashi who had discovered ancient records of the convergence cycle years earlier. His unique quirk, reality perception, had made him susceptible to influence from the dark origin energy as the cycle neared completion. With the immediate crisis resolved, attention turned to managing the temporary connection between worlds. A joint committee was formed, with representatives from both dimensions working to establish protocols for limited exchange and cooperation during the rebalancing period. UA High School, with its existing research into Naruto's abilities and the origin energy, became a natural center for this interdimensional diplomacy. Principal Nizu proved exceptionally adept at negotiating the complex political implications of contact between two previously separate realities. 1 week after the battle at Tokyo Bay, Naruto stood on UA's roof, watching the sunset over a city still recovering from the convergence crisis. The stabilized portal was visible in the distance as a shimmering curtain of light above the harbor, a reminder of how close both worlds had come to catastrophe. Thought I might find you up here, Midnight's voice came from behind him. Contemplating your role as interdimensional diplomat? Naruto turned with a smile. Something like that. It's weird, a few weeks ago, I was just trying to figure out how to get home. Now I'm helping establish trade agreements between ninja villages and hero agencies. Midnight joined him at the railing, her usual professional demeanor relaxed in the informal setting. You've handled it remarkably well. Most people would be overwhelmed by suddenly becoming the bridge between worlds. I've had practice adapting to unexpected roles, he replied with a shrug. Though I admit, Origin Sage wasn't on my career planning list. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the play of colors across the sky. Have you decided? Midnight finally asked. About staying or returning when the portal eventually closes? It was the question everyone had carefully avoided asking directly until now. With the stabilized connection allowing travel between dimensions, Naruto technically could return to his original world, but the scroll had suggested the Origin Sage played a continuing role in maintaining balance even after the acute crisis passed. "I'm still figuring that out," Naruto admitted. "According to what I understood during the transformation, the Origin Sage typically maintains presence in both worlds during the rebalancing period. After that, the door to the roof opened, interrupting their conversation as Momo emerged. She wore casual clothes rather than her UA uniform or battle armor, a rare sight that emphasized her youth despite her usual maturity. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, approaching with slight hesitation. "Principal Nizu mentioned you were up here. The Konoha delegation has arrived for tomorrow's formal exchange program." "Thanks," Naruto nodded. "I'll head down soon." Midnight glanced between them, a knowing smile touching her lips. "I should check on the security arrangements anyway. The first official diplomatic visit between dimensions deserves proper protocol." As she departed, Momo joined Naruto at the railing. Her usual composure seemed slightly nervous, hands fidgeting with an object she carried, what appeared to be a specialized communication device of her own design. "I completed the interdimensional communicator," she explained, offering him the device. "It should maintain connection even after the portal begins to contract. Range limited, of course, but sufficient for basic messaging between worlds." Naruto accepted it with genuine appreciation. "This is amazing, Momo. Your creation Quirk has really evolved since we started working together." "It's your influence," she acknowledged. "Understanding natural energy fundamentally changed how I approach my Quirk. It's not just about creating objects anymore, it's about shaping the connection between energy and matter." Their fingers brushed as he took the device, a brief contact that nevertheless carried meaning beyond the physical. So much had changed between them since their first analytical discussions in that government facility weeks ago. "About your decision," Momo began, her usual directness tempered by uncharacteristic uncertainty. "I know you have responsibilities in your world, people waiting for you." Naruto turned to face her fully. "And I have connections here too. People who've become important to me." The unspoken hung between them, the partnership that had evolved from professional collaboration to something deeper through shared danger and discovery. Neither had put it into explicit words, the circumstances of interdimensional crisis leaving little room for exploring personal feelings. The scroll mentioned that the Origin Sage typically maintains presence in both worlds during the rebalancing period, Naruto continued. "Which means I don't have to choose immediately. The connection will remain stable enough for travel between dimensions for months." "And after that?" Momo asked, the question she'd been holding back finally surfacing. Naruto smiled, not his usual bright grin, but something more thoughtful. "The thing about being the Origin Sage, apparently it comes with certain privileges. According to what I understood during the transformation, once the connection closes naturally, the Origin Sage retains the ability to create temporary passages between worlds." Hope brightened Momo's expression. "You mean you could still travel between dimensions even after the portal closes?" "Not easily or often," he clarified. "But yes. The cycle doesn't end with complete separation, it never did. There's always been a connection, just one that most people couldn't access." The significance of this revelation settled between them. It wasn't a choice between worlds, but rather accepting a role that encompassed both, becoming a permanent bridge between two realities that had always been connected through the cycle of energy. "So you'll be commuting between dimensions," Momo summarized with unexpected humor. "That's certainly a unique work arrangement." Naruto laughed, the tension of the unspoken finally breaking. "Never did anything the normal way. Why start now?" Their conversation was interrupted by a communication alert, the formal reception for the Konoha delegation was beginning. As they prepared to head downstairs, Momo hesitated once more. "Whatever you decide about your long-term arrangements," she said, summoning her characteristic directness, "I want you to know that your presence here has been transformative. Not just for the world or for Quirk science, but..." She met his eyes directly, "for me personally." Naruto's expression softened. Working with you has been one of the best parts of this whole interdimensional adventure, you know. From that first day when you weren't afraid to approach the weird guy with sage markings. I was terrified, she admitted with a small laugh. I just hide it well. Could have fooled me, he grinned. Most people don't start analyzing unknown energy signatures when they're scared. The moment between them held possibility, a connection that had developed through shared discovery, danger, and growth. Whatever path the future took, whatever balance was struck between worlds and responsibilities, this bond would remain significant. Together they headed down to join the reception, where heroes and shinobi were cautiously establishing the foundations of interdimensional cooperation. The origin sage and the brilliant creator who had helped him understand his purpose in this world, not just colleagues or friends, but partners in maintaining the delicate balance between two realities that had always been connected through the cycles of power. In the harbor beyond UA, the stabilized portal shimmered with golden light as day transitioned to evening, not a wound between dimensions, but a bridge. Not an ending, but a new beginning. The forbidden god aspect had been accessed but not surrendered to, the power channeled toward harmony rather than dominance. And Naruto Uzumaki, once feared as an unknown entity with godlike power, had found his place, not as villain or traditional hero, but as something entirely unique, the origin Quirk sage, bridge between worlds, and living proof that true strength comes not from power itself but from the heart that guides it. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.